It was a morning like any other on June 30th, 1908, in the remote, frozen expanse of Siberia. The sun rose lazily over the endless forest, casting long shadows across the dense taiga. The rivers moved silently beneath sheets of mist, and the wildlife, unaware of the approaching catastrophe, went about its usual patterns. Villagers in scattered Evenki settlements rose to tend their chores, smoke curling from tiny wooden chimneys. The air was crisp, the sky serene, yet something colossal and unimaginable was about to rupture the peace of this isolated land. Suddenly, the sky ignited. Witnesses would later describe a blinding flash, brighter than the sun, tearing across the heavens. A thunderous roar followed almost instantly, rolling across the hills and forests with a violence that seemed beyond comprehension. Those who saw it were struck silent, mouths open in a mixture of terror and awe. Birds scattered in every direction, and the very earth itself seemed to shudder beneath an invisible force. The sound was not just a roar. It was a scream, a force that penetrated both ear and soul. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. In the villages, Evenki herders recounted how the sky itself appeared to split open. Some spoke of a fireball falling slowly yet impossibly large, its tail casting light like molten gold across the frozen landscape. Windows shattered in distant settlements, and people were thrown to the ground as if the wind itself had turned against them. The animals sensed the terror before humans fully comprehended it. Dogs whimpered, reindeer bolted, and livestock scattered into the forest, instinctively fleeing an invisible predator from the sky. Then came the silence. The explosion, unlike anything recorded in history, left no crater, no smoking remnants, only a flattened, scorched landscape that would baffle generations. 2,000 square kilometers of forest lay destroyed, trees felled like matchsticks, radiating outward from an invisible epicenter. The devastation was not just physical, it was psychological. How could such power exist and leave no trace? What force could strike so suddenly, yet vanish without a body, without a fingerprint on the earth? The Evenki people, steeped in their own ancient myths, called it the sky fire. They spoke of spirits angered, of omens and celestial punishments. Their oral accounts painted the scene with a mixture of horror and reverence, revealing an instinctive understanding that this event was not merely natural, but something beyond human control. Families huddled together, recounting stories of houses shaking as though the earth itself were angry, of brilliant light so bright that it burned the eyes, and of a sound that could pierce the soul. In their retellings, there was both fear and awe, a recognition that the universe could strike suddenly, without warning and without reason. News of the event took years to reach the broader world. Siberia, so remote and inaccessible, kept its secret well. Reports trickled slowly through local administrators, scientists, and eventually the newspapers of distant cities. Early accounts were dismissed as exaggeration or folklore. How could the earth itself explode? Skeptics asked. Where are the craters? Where's the evidence? Yet, as the years passed and scientists ventured into taiga, the scale of destruction could no longer be ignored. Trees were not merely downed. They were scorched and splayed outward in radial patterns, as though some invisible hand had pushed them away from a central point of unimaginable energy. There was no sound of impact, no conventional evidence of a meteor striking the ground. No crater existed, no fragments of rock or metal remained. Instead, the event left behind an invisible footprint, a violent impression on the landscape, on the memory of those who witnessed it, and on the imagination of the human mind. It was a puzzle that combined awe and terror, beauty and horror, order and chaos. Scientists would later call it an airburst, a celestial object exploding kilometers above the Earth. But even this explanation could not capture the scale of fear, wonder, and mystery that hung over the Tunguska region like a shadow. Even now, over a century later, the event retains a sense of cinematic grandeur. Imagine a sky brighter than the sun, trees erupting like splintered arrows, the earth trembling beneath the roar of an unseen explosion and humans staring up in helpless astonishment. That single morning left the world with a question that continues to haunt scientists, historians, and dreamers alike. What, exactly, came from the sky to unleash such power? And why did it vanish as suddenly as it arrived, leaving only whispers, scorched wood, and the lingering scent of cosmic fire? In the end, the Tunguska event was more than a mere explosion. It was a confrontation with the unknown, a reminder of humanity's fragile place in the universe. It was a day when the sky broke open, revealing the raw, uncontrollable force of nature and challenging us to seek answers in a world where some mysteries may never be fully solved. As we look back, the question remains, could the skies above us one day repeat such a terrifying, awe-inspiring display, leaving us as helpless as the villagers of Siberia were that fateful morning? Far from the shattered forest and the echoing sky fire, the Evenki people lived quietly in their small, scattered settlements, moving with the rhythm of the land. Their lives were shaped by the cycles of nature, hunting reindeer, fishing in the frozen rivers, and following the migrations of animals across the vast Siberian taiga. Life was harsh but predictable, a delicate balance between survival and respect for the wilderness that surrounded them. Yet on that fateful morning of June 30th, 1908, the predictable rhythms of life were shattered. The Evenki were the first witnesses of a spectacle that no science could immediately explain. As the fireball tore across the sky, it illuminated the forest with a brilliance so unnatural that some thought the sun itself had descended. Hunters in distant camps raised their heads, eyes squinting against the overwhelming light. Families clutching children felt the ground tremble as though the earth itself were rebelling against its inhabitants. Dogs barked frantically, reindeer bolted in panic, and the villagers, steeped in generations of oral tradition, immediately turned to myth to make sense of the incomprehensible. Their stories spoke of the sky fire or burning spirits, mysterious forces descending from the heavens with purpose unknown. Some elders whispered that it was a celestial warning, a reminder of human fragility in the face of nature's true power. Others recounted the sound, a deafening roar unlike thunder or storm, a voice from the sky that seemed to shake the very soul. In hushed tones, the villagers recalled how trees were uprooted as though invisible hands had swept through the forest, leaving a radial pattern of destruction that no ordinary storm or human weapon could replicate. Yet, as much as these accounts were rooted in superstition, there was also an unmistakable clarity in their fear. The Evenki were no strangers to danger. Wolves, bears, and bitter winters had tested their resilience for generations. But this was something new. It was a force that ignored the natural laws they understood. They could see no creature, no weapon, no enemy that had caused this devastation. It was a power unbound by the earth, a reminder that the sky itself could harbor horrors far beyond human comprehension. The villagers' immediate response was a mix of awe and survival instinct. Families gathered in their small wooden homes, clutching children and whispering prayers to the spirits of their ancestors. Some fled into the forest, fearing another strike. Others remained, frozen in disbelief, watching as smoke rose from distant tree leans, the horizon glowing with an otherworldly fire. Eyewitness accounts describe moments when adults wept openly, not out of despair alone, but in recognition of a force that humbled humanity in an instant. What makes these accounts so remarkable is their consistency across distance. Evenki tribes separated by hundreds of kilometers told similar stories. A blinding light, an unearthly roar, the shaking of the ground, and the sudden disappearance of the fireball into the sky. These reports, passed down through generations, offer a glimpse into human perception when confronted with phenomena that defy explanation. The personal, emotional weight of the event is palpable in every story. The fear, the awe, the fragile understanding that life could change in a single moment. When Russian authorities and later scientists heard of these tales, they were initially skeptical. To many, they seemed like exaggerated folklore, myths created by remote communities with vivid imaginations. But as investigators like Leonid Kulik ventured into the Tunguska region decades later, the testimony of the Evenki became crucial evidence. Every description of the fireball's trajectory, the sound that split the sky, and the pattern of fallen trees helped reconstruct the unimaginable. Without these human witnesses, the event would remain an enigma preserved only in burned and shattered timber. The Evenki's accounts also offer insight into the profound emotional and psychological impact of witnessing such a cosmic event. Children describe being lifted off their feet by invisible forces. Dogs howled as if sensing danger beyond human perception, and elders spoke of an ancient fear awakened by a force older than humanity itself. It is this human dimension, the intimate fear, the awe, the recognition of our own smallness in the universe, that transforms Tunguska from a historical curiosity into a deeply emotional story of survival and wonder. As time passed, the Evenki adapted to the changed landscape. The fireball had left behind a scar, but life endured. Reindeer returned to the flattened forests, rivers flowed unimpeded, and small settlements rebuilt homes along familiar paths. Yet, even as nature healed, the memory of that morning persisted. Oral traditions ensured that the sky fire would not be forgotten, a living archive of human experience that carried both warning and wonder. Modern scientists, poring over maps and aerial photographs, often return to the testimonies of the Evenki. Each account adds nuance to the reconstruction of the blast. The timing of the flash, the sequence of sounds, the reactions of animals, and the sight lines across the taiga. Without these human perspectives, the event would be reduced to abstract numbers, energy estimates, blast radii, and hypothetical models. It is the lived experience, the fear and awe embedded in the Evenki stories, that makes Tunguska resonate across time. Ultimately, the Evenki perspective reminds us that no matter how advanced science becomes, human witnesses hold a unique lens on extraordinary events. They capture the emotional reality, the terror, the wonder, the awe that numbers alone cannot convey. Tunguska was not just a physical explosion. It was a collision between humanity and the incomprehensible forces of the universe. And in the forests of Siberia, the Evenki were there to feel it, to live it, and to remember it. As we move deeper into the investigation, these stories guide us. They point to an event that defied physics, reshaped the landscape, and left humans grappling with questions far larger than the Siberian taiga. What exactly fell from the sky? Could it have been a fragment of a comet, a rogue asteroid, or something altogether stranger? The Evenki stories do not provide answers, but they provide a path, one lined with fear, wonder, and a deeply human attempt to make sense of the unknown. And so the stage is set. The human dimension of Tunguska is revealed through eyes that saw the unimaginable, hearts that felt the cosmic terror, and voices that carry the memory through the generations. The forest may have healed, but the memory of the sky fire endures, whispering a question that still haunts us. What force from the heavens could strike so suddenly, so invisibly, and leave us forever in awe of our fragile place in the universe? The morning after the sky fire, when the last echoes of the explosion faded into silence, the forest lay in a state that seemed almost impossible to believe. Trees were no longer upright. They were splintered, scorched, and radiating outward from an invisible center. Millions of them had fallen like matchsticks, forming a chaotic, yet strangely ordered, pattern across 2,000 square kilometers. Nature itself bore witness to a force beyond comprehension. The taiga, usually so resilient, seemed momentarily defeated, flattened, as though some invisible hand had pressed it into the earth. Walking through the forest, explorers would later describe an otherworldly landscape. The ground was littered with tree trunks, scorched branches, and twisted undergrowth. The smell of charred wood and scorched earth lingered in the air, a faint but haunting reminder of the sky's fury. The riverbanks were littered with debris, and animals, whether by instinct or fear, had abandoned the area entirely. Even birds, normally the most adaptable creatures, remained absent, their absence echoing the eerie silence that hung over the devastated forest. Yet, there was a peculiar beauty in the destruction. From above, the radial patterns of the fallen trees resembled spokes of a gigantic wheel, pointing toward the mysterious epicenter. It was as if the forest itself had recorded the invisible energy that had passed through it. The symmetry of chaos made scientists and explorers pause, giving the scene a surreal, almost artistic quality, despite the horror it represented. The sheer scale of the devastation was staggering. No storm, no flood, no known natural disaster could have produced such an effect over such a vast, unbroken area. As Leonid Kulik would later document, the area seemed frozen in a moment of violent time. Trees snapped at various heights, some scorched at the base, others at the top, suggesting a massive, upward propagating force. The forest floor was littered not only with fallen trees, but with soil that had been subtly displaced, rocks that appeared to have been lifted and dropped by some invisible hand, and fragments of wood and vegetation that told a story of sudden, overwhelming pressure. Every step taken in that forest was a step into a scene that felt simultaneously alien and familiar, a wilderness assaulted by a force far beyond human comprehension. The psychological impact on the first explorers cannot be overstated. Imagine walking into a forest where every tree points back to an invisible epicenter. Imagine feeling the echoes of an explosion that occurred decades before, still alive in the land itself. The taiga was no longer simply a forest. It was a monument to the unknown, a scar on the earth that whispered both warning and awe. Witnesses described a heavy, oppressive silence, punctuated only by the creak of fallen timber and the distant rustle of the wind through damaged branches. Even today, imagining that scene evokes a mixture of wonder, fear, and deep humility. One of the most perplexing aspects of the destruction was the absence of a crater. For such an explosion, many expected to find a gaping wound in the earth, a hole marking where the sky's fury had landed. Instead, there was only a flattened forest, scorched yet intact beneath the surface, as though the energy had passed through the atmosphere and dissipated into the land without leaving a traditional mark. This absence puzzled scientists for decades, fueling theories of airbursts, comet fragments, and invisible energy waves. The land itself held the evidence, but in a form that challenged all conventional understanding. Amidst this devastation, the human element emerges again. Evenki villagers, returning cautiously to the edge of the cleared zones, described walking through landscapes that had been familiar only days before. Paths once traveled were now blocked by massive fallen trees. Hunting grounds were altered, rivers partially obstructed by debris. Yet their accounts were not merely of loss. They carried awe and reverence. For them, the forest was alive, imbued with a story they could not fully understand, a tale of the sky's fury, recorded in wood, soil, and the very air itself. Modern reconstructions using aerial photography and satellite imagery revealed the full scale of what the human eye could scarcely comprehend in 1908. The flattened area, larger than many modern cities, radiates outward with geometric precision that hints at the extraordinary physics of the explosion. Energy calculations suggest a force hundreds of times more powerful than any conventional bomb of that era. It was, in every measurable sense, a global-class event, yet it occurred in a sparsely populated corner of Siberia, leaving only whispers and scattered eyewitness accounts to document its power. The forest, however, tells another story, one of resilience. Over the decades, vegetation returned, reindeer grazed once more, and rivers ran free again. Nature healed, but the pattern of destruction remains etched in the land, visible from the air, a ghostly reminder of the day the sky exploded. Scientists studying the region note subtle scars in tree rings, soil composition, and regrowth patterns that suggest an extraordinary energy release. In every living tree that sprouts in the Tunguska region, there is a testament to endurance, a subtle echo of what happened over a century ago. Perhaps most haunting of all is the human inability to fully grasp the event. Despite decades of research, the exact nature of the force remains uncertain. Was it a fragment of a comet? An asteroid that exploded midair? Or something far stranger, beyond current scientific understanding? The forest does not provide answers. It provides clues, enigmatic and beautiful, that point towards something far greater than human comprehension. Walking through the flattened trees is a reminder that the universe can strike without warning, leaving humans to reconstruct stories from the debris, from whispers, and from imagination. In the end, the story of the forest is a story of contrasts. Destruction and regrowth, terror and awe, mystery and the human drive to understand. Tunguska is not merely a historical event. It is a mirror reflecting our vulnerability, our curiosity, and our capacity for wonder. And as scientists, explorers, and dreamers continue to traverse the taiga, one truth remains clear. The forest will always speak, if we listen carefully, of the day the sky ignited, of the invisible hand that reshaped the earth, and of the mystery that still burns in the heart of Siberia. As word of the Tunguska devastation slowly spread beyond the remote taiga, the scientific world was both intrigued and baffled. In the early 20th century, Siberia was largely unexplored and mysterious to most outsiders, and reports of a vast forest flattened by an unseen force sounded almost mythical. Newspapers published scattered accounts, describing a blinding light, a thunderous roar, and panic among local populations. But for many scientists, the event was almost too extraordinary to believe. How could such energy be released without leaving a traditional impact crater? The laws of physics, as they understood them, seemed to bend in the face of Tunguska. Early investigators struggled with the sheer scale of the problem. The destruction was unlike anything cataloged in history. No volcano, no earthquake, no known atmospheric phenomenon could account for it. Initial reports were met with skepticism. Some dismissed the event as exaggerated folklore, blaming it on natural forest fires or local exaggeration. Yet, as more witness accounts trickled in, tales of windows shattering hundreds of kilometers away, trees uprooted in a radial pattern, and a sky that lit up like the sun itself, the scientific community began to take notice. Something had indeed occurred, something extraordinary, and it demanded a rigorous, empirical investigation. In those first years, scientists were confronted not only with the mystery itself, but with the practical challenges of Siberia. The region was remote, harsh, and largely inaccessible. Expeditions faced rivers, marshes, dense forests, and extreme weather. The lack of roads and modern equipment meant that early studies were slow, painstaking, and often dangerous. Researchers had to rely on horse-drawn sleds, riverboats, and long treks across frozen expanses. Every step into the taiga was a confrontation with both nature's obstacles and the lingering echoes of a cataclysm that had left no conventional traces. The emotional stakes were high for the scientists involved. For some, the event was an intellectual puzzle, a challenge to solve with reason, observation, and mathematics. For others, it was profoundly personal, a confrontation with forces far beyond human control. Letters and journals from early investigators reveal a mix of frustration, awe, and even fear. Standing among the fallen trees, hearing the faint creak of splintered timber in the wind, one could feel the lingering presence of the explosion, a silent reminder of a power that had reshaped the land in an instant. One of the earliest hypotheses suggested a meteor impact, but this raised questions. Where was the crater? Why were no large fragments found at ground level? Others speculated that the explosion had originated from within the Earth itself. A subterranean eruption, a release of unknown gases, or a geophysical anomaly. Each explanation offered tantalizing possibilities, yet none fully accounted for the patterns observed in the forest. The more scientists studied, the clearer it became. Tunguska was unlike anything they had encountered before. It was a puzzle that resisted easy solutions, teasing human intellect with glimpses of truth that seemed always just out of reach. The event also began to challenge humanity's perception of its own safety and place in the universe. If a remote Siberian forest could be struck with such devastating force, what did that imply for more populated areas? Could a similar event occur elsewhere? without warning? The emotional weight of this possibility added urgency to the investigations, transforming Tunguska from a local anomaly into a symbol of humanity's vulnerability to cosmic forces. Researchers were no longer merely observing a historical curiosity. They were confronting the possibility of an invisible, uncontrollable threat from the sky. As scientific reports accumulated, a subtle tension emerged between empirical data and the human imagination. Some theorists leaned toward fantastical explanations, citing unusual sightings, electromagnetic anomalies, and even whispers of mysterious cosmic agents from beyond. Others were firmly rooted in conventional physics, exploring theories of high-altitude, meteor explosions, and airbursts. This interplay between imagination and science created an atmosphere of intellectual drama, as if the very act of understanding Tunguska demanded not only knowledge but courage, the courage to confront forces that defied conventional explanation. Despite the initial skepticism and logistical challenges, the groundwork for serious study was laid in these early decades. Scientists cataloged eyewitness testimonies, mapped the radial patterns of tree destruction, and began to calculate the approximate energy released. Each discovery seemed to illuminate one aspect of the event while deepening the mystery of another. The absence of a crater, the radial tree patterns, the lack of recovered meteorite fragments, all pointed to a phenomenon that was both violent and elusive. Tunguska was no longer merely a remote explosion. It was a living question, one that required decades, even centuries, of careful observation and study to approach understanding. It was also in this period that the emotional resonance of the event became intertwined with scientific inquiry. Researchers described feelings of awe and fear upon witnessing the landscape, recognizing that they were observing the aftermath of an unimaginable cosmic confrontation. The taiga, once familiar and predictable, had been transformed into a monument to invisible power. Every scorched tree, every bent trunk, every pattern in the soil was a reminder that humans, for all their ingenuity, were still small players on a vast, often indifferent stage. In retrospect, these early investigations laid the foundation for everything that followed. They preserved witness testimonies, documented the forest's unusual patterns, and began to formulate hypotheses that would evolve with technology and imagination over the next century. Without this careful work, the Tunguska event might have faded into folklore, remembered only in the oral histories of the Evenki. Instead, it became a case study in human curiosity, persistence, and emotional confrontation with the unknown. And yet, even as the first scientists ventured into the taiga, measured the trees, and recorded observations, the question remained: what invisible force had struck so violently, so completely, and so mysteriously? Each answer seemed to open new doors of uncertainty, pushing researchers toward increasingly sophisticated theories and, occasionally, toward the edge of speculation itself. Tunguska was not merely a physical event. It was a puzzle that tested the limits of human understanding, a drama that combined science, fear, and awe in a landscape that had already endured the unimaginable. As we move forward in our exploration, the stage is set for the first major expedition, a journey into the heart of the destruction, where human courage and curiosity would collide with nature's raw power. The forest awaits, holding its secrets in wood and soil, whispering a story that has endured for over a century, ready to reveal itself to those daring enough to seek answers. By 1927, almost 2 decades had passed since the sky fire of Tunguska, yet the region remained a place of mystery and whispered awe. The devastation had been long reported, but the remoteness of the Siberian wilderness kept it hidden from the wider world. Enter Leonid Kulik, a Russian mineralogist driven not only by curiosity, but by an almost obsessive desire to confront one of nature's greatest enigmas. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Kulik understood that the answers would not come from textbooks or distant observation. They would come from the ground, from the scorched trees and twisted earth of Tunguska itself. Kulik's journey was perilous. The taiga in 1927 was far less accessible than it is today. Rivers were unpredictable, dense forests blocked even the most determined travelers, and the extreme climate added layers of danger. Yet Kulik pressed forward, fueled by determination and a sense of purpose that bordered on devotion. Every step through the Siberian expanse was a confrontation with both nature's obstacles and the invisible memory of the explosion that had occurred nearly 20 years prior. The very land seemed to whisper warnings, yet he advanced, mapping rivers, negotiating with local guides, and consulting the Evenki for stories and guidance. The moment Kulik first encountered the devastation, he was struck not only by its scale, but by its haunting, almost surreal beauty. Millions of trees lay splintered, pointing radially outward, scorched bark and twisted trunks creating patterns that seemed both chaotic and purposeful. It was a scene that defied imagination. Nature, once pristine and orderly, had been transformed into a cryptic map of cosmic power. Kulik later described walking among the fallen timber and feeling a strange combination of awe, fear, and reverence, as if the forest itself were speaking to him, recounting events he could not see but could almost feel in every trembling trunk. The expedition relied heavily on local knowledge. The Evenki guides recounted eyewitness stories, describing the blinding light, the roar of the explosion, and the panic that had gripped villages. These personal narratives provided Kulik with essential clues, directions to the epicenter, observations about tree fall patterns, and hints at areas where unusual soil or metallic anomalies might be found. For the scientist, these accounts were more than folklore. They were data points, small pieces of a puzzle that might one day reveal the truth. Yet, even as he documented them, Kulik felt the weight of the unknown pressing in, the realization that some aspects of the event might remain forever beyond human understanding. Kulik's methodology was meticulous. He measured tree angles, mapped radial patterns, and examined the scorched earth for traces of heat, pressure, or unknown elements. He collected samples, noting subtle differences in soil composition, char patterns, and residual plant damage. The forest, in a way, became his laboratory, and every tree was a page in a book written by an invisible hand. Despite the progress, the mystery only deepened. There was no impact crater, no massive rock fragments, no clear origin point for the energy that had devastated the landscape. Each discovery seemed to illuminate one aspect of the event while raising new questions, leaving Kulik both exhilarated and frustrated. The psychological experience of the expedition cannot be understated. Imagine trekking for days through dense, unmapped forests, surrounded by evidence of an unimaginable explosion, knowing that what you seek is invisible, an object that left no trace, a force that cannot be held, only inferred. Kulik wrote of the ghostly silence that hung over the epicenter, broken only by the distant rustle of wind through fallen timber or the occasional call of a returning bird. The forest seemed suspended between time and memory, caught between the violent day of 1908 and the present moment, a frozen testament to the raw power of nature. Kulik's findings were groundbreaking, yet incomplete. He documented the radial tree pattern, measured scorched areas, and noted unusual soil effects that hinted at extreme atmospheric pressure. He collected reports of strange aerial phenomena, bright lights in the sky, tremors felt hundreds of kilometers away, and flashes that left observers blinded. Each piece of evidence reinforced a central truth. Tunguska had been unlike any explosion known to humanity. It was not merely an environmental disaster. It was an event that challenged understanding, a collision between the physical world and the cosmic unknown. The expedition also highlighted the human stakes in uncovering such a mystery. Kulik's determination inspired his team, but it came with risks. The Siberian wilderness was harsh, unpredictable, and unforgiving. Encounters with wild animals, sudden weather changes, and the logistical difficulties of carrying equipment through dense forests added tension to every step. Yet Kulik pressed on, driven by the possibility of solving a puzzle that had baffled the world for nearly 20 years. His journey was as much a test of endurance, courage, and faith in human curiosity as it was a scientific mission. Perhaps the most profound aspect of Kulik's expedition was the connection between human perception and the landscape itself. Walking through the flattened forest, speaking with the villagers who had witnessed the sky fire, and examining the scorched remnants of trees, Kulik confronted the emotional weight of the event. He understood that Tunguska was not just a scientific mystery, but a human story, a story of terror, awe, and resilience. The forest and its witnesses offered a bridge between the empirical and the emotional, between the measurable and the ineffable. By the end of the 1927 expedition, Kulik had compiled a wealth of data, sketches, maps, and witness accounts. He returned to Leningrad with photographs of radial tree patterns, samples of scorched earth, and detailed measurements of the affected landscape. His work laid the foundation for decades of research, giving future scientists the tools to explore the event more deeply. Yet, even as he presented his findings, the central question remained unanswered. What had caused this invisible yet incomprehensibly powerful explosion? Kulik's expedition transformed Tunguska from rumor and folklore into a serious subject of scientific inquiry. It revealed not only the scale of the devastation, but also the complexity of the mystery. Each observation hinted at forces beyond human understanding, each witness account added emotional depth, and each fallen tree stood as a silent testament to the day the sky erupted. Tunguska was no longer a remote anecdote. It was a challenge to humanity's understanding of nature, the cosmos, and our own fragility. And so, the stage was set for future expeditions, more sophisticated investigations, and increasingly imaginative theories. The forest held its secrets, the Evenki carried their stories, and the memory of the sky fire lingered, waiting for those daring enough to seek answers. Kulik's footsteps in the taiga were the first of many, a journey into the heart of an enduring mystery that continues to captivate the imagination of scientists, historians, and dreamers alike. As Kulik delved deeper into the Tunguska wilderness, he began to notice patterns that defied conventional explanation. The first striking detail was the radial arrangement of the trees. Millions of them lay fallen, their trunks pointing outward from a central, invisible epicenter, as if some colossal force had pushed through the forest from above. Unlike the random destruction caused by storms, earthquakes, or floods, the pattern was almost geometric in its precision. Each tree seemed to be a silent witness to the passage of an extraordinary power, frozen in time to tell a story no human had yet fully deciphered. The trees themselves bore scars that told an even stranger tale. Some were scorched at the base, others at the top, and many exhibited a charring that suggested intense heat had swept through the forest in a highly directional manner. Bark was stripped from branches, while leaves were scorched and scattered in ways that suggested an invisible hand had manipulated them. Kulik noted that the severity of damage decreased with distance from the presumed epicenter, creating concentric rings of destruction that almost resembled ripples in a pond, but on land, not water. The forest floor, littered with splintered wood and scorched debris, offered further testimony. Soil displaced, small rocks lifted and dropped, and patches of vegetation seemingly vaporized. Kulik's observations extended beyond the obvious devastation. In some areas, he found trees that had survived the initial blast, yet exhibited strange growth patterns in the decades that followed. Rings in these trees suggested sudden heat stress and unusual radiation exposure, hints that the force had affected not only the structure of the forest, but the very biology of the living organisms within it. The forest, in this sense, became a living record of the event, preserving details that human eyes could not fully perceive at first glance. Every trunk, every leaf, every patch of scorched earth carried encoded information, waiting to be interpreted. Among the most perplexing findings were peculiar metallic fragments scattered across the epicenter. Some pieces were small, silvery, and unlike any known terrestrial material. Kulik carefully collected them, aware that these anomalies could hold the key to understanding the invisible force that had swept through the taiga. Yet the fragments were rare, sporadic, and offered no clear answers. They hinted at a celestial origin, perhaps a fragment of a comet or asteroid, but their scarcity added to the mystery. How could an object powerful enough to flatten 2,000 square kilometers leave almost no trace of itself? This paradox would haunt researchers for decades. The psychological impact of the observations weighed heavily on Kulik and his team. Imagine standing in a forest where every tree points toward an empty center, where the earth bears the imprint of an invisible explosion, and where every fragment, every scorch mark, suggests a power too immense to grasp. The wilderness itself seemed to hum with the memory of the blast. Kulik wrote in his journals about a profound mix of awe, fear, and frustration, a recognition that nature had recorded an event beyond human comprehension, and yet the ultimate truth remained tantalizingly out of reach. Local Evenki guides added context to these observations, recounting their ancestors' memories of the event. They described fires that had burned without visible source, shockwaves that knocked people off their feet, and strange lights that lingered in the sky long after the explosion. Kulik treated these oral histories not as folklore, but as crucial data, helping him reconstruct both the sequence of events and the broader impact on the environment. Together, human memory and natural evidence painted a picture of a cataclysm that was both real and surreal, tangible and elusive. One of the most fascinating aspects of the forest was the way it seemed to encode the directionality of the blast. Trees closer to the invisible epicenter were entirely uprooted or shattered at the base, while those farther away showed signs of twisting, bending, or partial charring. The pattern suggested a combination of extreme heat, pressure, and kinetic energy released in a single, fleeting moment. Kulik meticulously mapped these patterns, sketching diagrams that would later help scientists understand the potential scale and force of the Tunguska explosion. Yet even these meticulous records could not fully capture the intangible terror that must have gripped those who witnessed the original event. In addition to the physical evidence, subtle anomalies hinted at forces not entirely understood. Some trees showed signs of strange, localized heating, charred in ways inconsistent with the general blast pattern. Certain soil patches were chemically altered, suggesting extreme heat or radiation had passed through them. Even the air itself seemed to have carried an invisible imprint. Kulik recorded accounts from locals who spoke of lingering odors, a metallic tang that persisted in the area, and the sudden death or illness of animals in proximity to the epicenter. These anomalies hinted at a complexity beyond a simple meteor explosion, opening the door to more speculative theories that would emerge in later decades. Despite the danger, frustration, and physical exhaustion, Kulik remained relentless. Each observation reinforced the scale of what had occurred, and each anomaly suggested that the explosion was not merely destructive, but highly unusual in its physics. It was not a conventional impact. It was something more enigmatic, something that seemed to bend the rules of energy, matter, and gravity. The forest had been transformed into both a record and a puzzle, challenging human understanding and demanding interpretation. By the end of his expedition, Kulik had amassed a remarkable body of evidence. Radial tree patterns, scorched and twisted timber, soil and vegetation anomalies, and a few mysterious metallic fragments. He returned to Leningrad with detailed sketches, photographs, and reports, aware that he had uncovered only the surface of a deeper mystery. Tunguska was no longer just a curiosity. It was a phenomenon that would challenge scientists for decades, bridging the realms of natural history, cosmic science, and human imagination. The forest itself remained silent, yet it spoke volumes to those willing to listen. Every fallen tree, every scorch mark, every anomaly in the soil was a message from the past, a memory of the day when the sky erupted in fire and sound. Tunguska was not merely a physical event. It was a story etched in wood and earth, a narrative of cosmic power that transcended time, and a reminder that humanity is, at its core, a witness to forces far greater than itself. As Kulik's meticulous records made their way into the scientific community, the question that haunted every mind was clear. What had fallen from the heavens to unleash such unprecedented destruction? Siberia had been struck by a force beyond comprehension, yet tangible evidence of an impacting object was almost entirely absent. Scientists turned their gaze skyward, contemplating celestial bodies, asteroids, comets, meteors that might traverse the vast emptiness of space and deliver catastrophic energy upon contact with Earth. Each hypothesis carried its own elegance and terror, but none could fully account for the mystery frozen in the Tunguska forest. The first and most compelling theory was the asteroid hypothesis. Perhaps a small, dense asteroid had entered Earth's atmosphere at incredible speed, exploding high above the surface. This idea explained several aspects: the lack of a crater, the radial pattern of destroyed trees, and the immense energy release. Yet it raised another question. If the asteroid had exploded midair, why was there so little trace of its material on the ground? No large fragments, no conventional debris, nothing to point definitively to a rock from space. The forest seemed to whisper that the answer was more complex than even the most detailed calculations could suggest. Then came the comet hypothesis, equally captivating and chilling. Comets, composed largely of ice and dust, would vaporize more completely upon entering the atmosphere, potentially explaining the absence of fragments. A comet exploding above Siberia would have released energy in a sudden, violent airburst, perfectly consistent with the observed devastation. Yet this theory carried its own unsettling implication. Comets are far less predictable than asteroids. If a comet can pass unnoticed, depositing immense energy into an unsuspecting landscape, what does that say about humanity's vulnerability to the cosmos? Tunguska was not just a historical curiosity. It was a cosmic warning, a glimpse into the sheer scale of forces beyond human control. Alternative explanations began to emerge, each more imaginative than the last. Some scientists speculated about unusual natural phenomena: gas explosions from subterranean pockets, electrical storms unlike any recorded in human memory, or even atmospheric anomalies that could channel energy in ways we cannot yet comprehend. While these theories attempted to keep the event earthbound, none fully accounted for the precision and directionality of the destruction. The radial fall of trees, the specific heat patterns, and the sudden disappearance of the impacting object hinted at something far stranger, something that seemed to blend the natural with the unknowable. The more the theories multiplied, the more Tunguska became a playground for the imagination, a nexus where science met speculation, and the mind was forced to confront forces far greater than itself. Some voices ventured into the realms of the extraordinary, cosmic fragments carrying unknown energy forms, particles that behaved unlike anything catalogued, even electromagnetic phenomena that temporarily bent the laws of physics. These ideas, though controversial, reflected a profound truth. Tunguska challenged not only scientific understanding, but the boundaries of human imagination. It demanded we reconsider what is possible in a universe that remains largely unexplored. The cosmic theories also carried an emotional weight, for they suggested that humans were mere spectators in a much larger drama. Siberia had been the stage, the forest the audience, and the sky a conduit for forces indifferent to human life. If a comet, asteroid, or other celestial body could release such energy without warning, it implied that similar events could occur elsewhere at any time. The emotional impact was stark. Tunguska was not simply a historical anomaly. It was a humbling reminder of our fragile place in the cosmos, a cosmic wake-up call that transcended borders, politics, and human ambition. Interestingly, even within these high-energy cosmic scenarios, some of the strangest anomalies remained unresolved. The metallic fragments Kulik collected, rare as they were, hinted at a composition unfamiliar to terrestrial geology, yet inconsistent with known meteorites. Soil samples exhibited subtle chemical changes, possibly caused by extreme heat, shock waves, or unknown radiation. These fragments and anomalies teased the scientific mind, suggesting that the sky fire might have carried with it an invisible signature, a fingerprint of a cosmic force that Earth had never before experienced. Each discovery deepened the mystery rather than solved it. The interplay between observation and imagination became a defining feature of Tunguska research. Scientists like Kulik relied on empirical evidence, the radial tree patterns, scorch marks, soil anomalies, yet were constantly reminded of the limitations of their instruments, the incompleteness of human perception, and the enormity of the universe. Even today, modern simulations attempt to reconstruct the trajectory, energy, and atmospheric effects of the Tunguska object. Each model brings clarity to some aspects and uncertainty to others, reinforcing the idea that some mysteries are only partially knowable, leaving room for awe, speculation, and wonder. Amid these scientific pursuits, the emotional resonance of Tunguska continued to unfold. Think of the people who witnessed the fireball, the children who stared in terror, the villagers who fled into the forests, and the animals that scattered in instinctive panic. Combine this with the scientists like Kulik walking through scorched, radial forests decades later, mapping the invisible energy, and one sees the dual narrative of Tunguska, the physical and the human, the observable and the experiential. The story is as much about humanity's confrontation with the unknown as it is about cosmic physics. Even as the 20th century progressed, new theories emerged, some invoking antimatter, hypothetical mini-black holes, or exotic energy particles. Though these remain speculative, they underscore a vital truth. Tunguska is a story that cannot be contained within conventional boundaries. It challenges our understanding, our imagination, and our humility. The explosion was not just a moment in history. It was a confrontation between humanity and the raw, indifferent power of the cosmos, leaving us to wrestle with questions that may never be fully answered. Ultimately, the cosmic origins theories transform Tunguska into more than a scientific case study. They make it a reflection on vulnerability, curiosity, and the limits of understanding. The forests of Siberia may have regrown, the soil may have healed, and human civilization may have advanced, but the sky fire remains a silent testament to forces beyond comprehension. It reminds us that the universe is vast, indifferent, and capable of striking without warning, leaving humanity to reconcile wonder with terror and mystery with the desire to understand. As we move forward into subsequent investigations, the stage is set for increasingly detailed scientific exploration, more sophisticated technological analysis, and the persistent human drive to uncover the truth. Tunguska is no longer simply a historical anomaly. It is a mirror reflecting the intersection of nature, the cosmos, and human curiosity, reminding us that even in our most advanced age, we remain at the mercy of the universe's hidden powers. Decades passed after Kulik's pioneering expeditions, and the story of Tunguska continued to capture the imagination of scientists and the public alike. By the mid-20th century, technology had advanced enough to give researchers tools that Kulik could only have dreamed of. Aerial surveys became possible, providing a perspective that transformed our understanding of the disaster. For the first time, the full scale of the destruction could be seen in one sweeping view, revealing the radial patterns of flattened forest with a clarity that no ground-based expedition could match. From the sky, the taiga appeared like a vast, alien scar, a silent testimony to a moment of unimaginable cosmic violence. The first aerial photographs stunned investigators. They revealed the sheer magnitude of the flattened area, roughly 2,000 square kilometers of forest leveled in a single instant. The radial symmetry of the fallen trees, once discernible only in small patches, now appeared as a perfect, almost geometric pattern. From above, it was as if the forest itself had recorded the trajectory of the invisible force that passed through it. These images provided not just evidence, but context, offering scientists the ability to study the event as a coherent system rather than isolated, scattered anomalies. Satellite imagery, introduced decades later, added a new layer of depth. Infrared scans, vegetation mapping, and high-resolution imagery revealed subtle scars invisible to the naked eye. Soil disturbances, variations in regrowth, and lingering patterns in tree ring formation all became detectable from space. The forest, it seemed, had preserved the memory of the blast in ways that transcended human observation. It was as if nature itself were a living archive, encoding the event's energy, directionality, and scale across decades. Scientists could now study Tunguska with a level of precision that Kulik could only imagine, yet the mystery of the invisible object remained intact. Modern expeditions combined traditional fieldwork with these technological tools. Teams would trek through the taiga, guided by satellite maps and aerial photographs, measuring tree fall angles, collecting soil samples, and searching for metallic fragments. These expeditions revealed smaller patterns within the larger destruction, clusters of scorched trees, subtle topographical changes, and faint magnetic anomalies. Every detail reinforced the idea that the Tunguska explosion was not a simple meteor strike, but a complex airburst, a phenomenon that released massive energy without ever touching the ground. The forest, in this sense, was both the evidence and the witness, holding secrets that only careful observation could begin to decipher. The psychological dimension of these modern surveys is significant. Researchers, standing atop ridges or hovering in helicopters, confronted a landscape that had been shaped by forces far beyond human comprehension. Walking among the radial patterns, one can almost feel the invisible energy that swept through the forest. Even decades later, the taiga carries an aura of awe, a silent reminder of the raw, impersonal power of nature and the cosmos. Scientists describe an almost surreal feeling, a mix of exhilaration and fear, when interpreting the radial destruction, as though the forest itself were alive and recounting the story of the blast. These observations also prompted a reevaluation of previous theories. With detailed maps in hand, researchers could simulate the trajectory, speed, and energy release of the Tunguska object. Computer modeling suggested an explosion occurring roughly 5 to 10 kilometers above the ground, releasing energy equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, hundreds of times more powerful than any conventional bomb of that era. The simulations matched the observed tree patterns and soil disturbances, providing a strong case for the airburst hypothesis. Yet despite this clarity, fundamental questions remained. What kind of object could release such energy and vanish so completely? Why were metallic fragments so rare? The invisible perpetrator continued to elude definitive identification. The combination of satellite imagery and on-the-ground surveys also revealed unexpected ecological insights. Regrowth patterns showed that certain tree species had survived in patches, while others exhibited stress in ring formation, suggesting exposure to intense heat and pressure. Soil chemistry indicated localized anomalies that may have resulted from extreme thermal and shock effects. Even today, researchers can detect subtle variations in plant density and growth that correlate with the original blast. The land itself, in other words, is a living record, preserving not only physical evidence, but a biological memory of the extraordinary event. Perhaps the most haunting revelation of modern investigations is the way the forest encodes the invisible energy. Radial patterns, charred soil, and surviving vegetation all suggest a force that moved through the atmosphere with precision and power, leaving a signature that human technology can map, but not fully explain. The landscape is both evidence and enigma, a reminder that while science can reconstruct trajectories, measure energy, and model airbursts, some aspects of Tunguska remain fundamentally unknowable. The forest speaks, but only partially. Its whispers are as much a challenge to human imagination as they are to empirical inquiry. Modern tools have also allowed researchers to engage with Tunguska in ways that Kulik could never have imagined. Drones can hover over the epicenter, capturing angles and details inaccessible by foot or even helicopter. LiDAR technology penetrates dense forest canopy, revealing subtle topographical features, fallen trees, and soil disruptions. Geophysical surveys detect anomalies in magnetic and gravitational fields, offering clues about how the energy was distributed. Each technological advancement uncovers new layers of the mystery, deepening our understanding while simultaneously emphasizing how much remains unknown. Ultimately, these modern surveys and technologies confirm what Kulik and the first expeditions sensed instinctively. Tunguska was not just a local explosion. It was a cosmic message encoded in the land itself. The forest, the soil, and the patterns preserved through time are both evidence and testimony, blending the objective and the emotional, the scientific and the awe-inspiring. They remind us that even with satellites, drones, and computer simulations, humanity remains a witness to forces far greater than itself. Tunguska challenges our understanding, stretches our imagination, and leaves an indelible mark on the human psyche. As we continue our journey through the story of Tunguska, these modern tools provide a bridge from past observations to present understanding. They allow us to see the invisible, trace the paths of energy that once tore through the Siberian taiga, and connect with the human experience of standing amid the aftermath. The scar on the land is both a record and a reminder. The sky can strike with unimaginable force, leaving no conventional evidence, yet writing its story in the subtle, enduring language of nature. Even decades after Kulik's first expeditions and the advent of modern aerial and satellite surveys, the Tunguska Event refused to be fully explained. While mainstream science leaned toward the asteroid or comet airburst hypothesis, the forest, soil, and witness accounts continued to hint at anomalies that did not fit neatly into any conventional model. Unusual electromagnetic phenomena, reports of strange lights in the sky, and unexplained local effects kept the mystery alive, bridging the realms of hard science and human imagination. Eyewitnesses, both during the 1908 explosion and in the years immediately after, reported phenomena that went beyond mere visual observation. Some villagers described a sky that flashed multiple colors in rapid succession: blinding white, fiery red, and deep blue, followed by a deafening roar. Others recounted hearing the sound before seeing the light, suggesting an unusual propagation of energy through the atmosphere. Birds and animals reacted in ways that implied a force beyond mere sound or heat. Reindeer and wolves scattered in panic, while smaller creatures reportedly fell unconscious or fled in disorientation. These accounts, when compiled, formed a pattern of effects that hinted at a multidimensional phenomenon, one that encompassed heat, pressure, light, and possibly electromagnetic disturbance. Further complicating the picture were reports of unusual post-event effects. Trees that survived the initial blast sometimes exhibited strange growth patterns decades later, suggesting exposure to forces not entirely understood. Soil samples revealed subtle chemical and magnetic anomalies, localized in areas that did not always correspond neatly to the radial destruction pattern. The air itself seemed affected. Some witnesses described a lingering metallic smell or a faint, unnatural haze over the forest for days following the explosion. These observations fueled theories that the event involved more than a simple airburst, perhaps an interaction between a cosmic object and the Earth's atmosphere that produced unusual electromagnetic or energetic effects. Controversial theories began to gain traction, some straddling the line between science and speculation. A few researchers proposed that the Tunguska explosion involved antimatter or exotic particles from space, capable of releasing massive energy without leaving traditional debris. Others suggested that the event might have been a micro black hole passing through the atmosphere, an idea that, while radical, attempted to account for the absence of a crater and the precise distribution of energy. Even more speculative notions, UFOs, extraterrestrial intervention, or lost technologies, emerged in popular culture and fringe scientific literature, demonstrating humanity's struggle to reconcile the tangible evidence with the invisible force that had reshaped the Siberian landscape. Despite the fringe nature of some of these theories, they highlight a profound human truth. Tunguska challenges perception, imagination, and the boundaries of conventional understanding. The event forces us to confront forces far larger and stranger than ourselves, compelling both scientists and dreamers to explore not only the physical effects, but also the philosophical and emotional dimensions of the disaster. The forest, radial and scarred, becomes a symbol of human curiosity and vulnerability, a reminder that some forces are beyond our immediate comprehension, yet leave their mark in unmistakable ways. Even within mainstream science, the event retains unanswered questions. How exactly did the energy propagate through the atmosphere to flatten millions of trees in a near-perfect radial pattern? What caused the observed electromagnetic and thermal anomalies reported by locals and recorded by early scientific equipment? And why were large fragments of the supposed impacting body virtually non-existent? Each of these questions highlights the limits of empirical observation in the face of a phenomenon that operated at the intersection of atmosphere, energy, and possibly unknown physics. The forest and soil preserve clues, but the full story remains elusive, almost intentionally hidden, as if the cosmos itself is teasing human understanding. The emotional resonance of these mysteries cannot be understated. Imagine standing in the epicenter today, walking amid the radial tree pattern, aware that something invisible yet incomprehensibly powerful swept through the forest decades ago. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of wind or distant wildlife. Even now, the air seems to carry memory, subtle, almost imperceptible traces of heat, energy, and history. For scientists and visitors alike, the forest is more than a landscape. It is a living archive of cosmic power, a place where empirical observation meets awe, fear, and deep humility. Witness testimonies, collected meticulously over the decades, continue to fuel fascination. Some describe strange, rotating fireballs in the sky, moving too swiftly to be conventional meteors. Others reported unusual auditory phenomena, low-frequency vibrations, roaring sounds, or even a sense of pressure in the chest, suggesting energy propagation in ways that are still difficult to model. These accounts, while anecdotal, offer crucial hints about the nature of the event, indicating that it was more than a simple impact. It was an interaction between celestial forces, the Earth's atmosphere, and perhaps unknown energies. The lingering mysteries have inspired generations of researchers to return to Tunguska, armed with new technology and fresh perspectives. From geophysical surveys to drone mapping, scientists continue to probe the radial patterns, soil chemistry, and subtle topographical anomalies. Modern analytical techniques, including isotopic studies and computer modeling, have provided partial answers, yet even the most sophisticated studies cannot fully account for the scale, intensity, and elusiveness of the force that struck Siberia. In many ways, the event remains a riddle frozen in time, challenging assumptions about both the cosmos and human comprehension. Perhaps the most profound aspect of the Tunguska mystery lies in its emotional impact. Unlike ordinary disasters, it is not the loss of life or property that resonates most. It is the encounter with the unknown, the explosion, the forest, the invisible trajectory of energy, all combine to create an experience that is at once terrifying and awe-inspiring. It reminds humanity that even in our most technologically advanced era, we remain spectators to forces far greater than ourselves, forces that can shape history, geography, and human consciousness in a single, fleeting moment. As the forest regenerates and decades pass, the radial patterns and subtle anomalies endure, silently preserving the memory of the sky fire. Researchers, scientists, and dreamers continue to grapple with its meaning, seeking answers while acknowledging the limits of knowledge. Tunguska becomes both a scientific case study and a philosophical mirror, a place where human curiosity meets cosmic indifference, and where the line between observation, imagination, and wonder blurs. In the end, the controversies, anomalies, and strange phenomena surrounding Tunguska are not just obstacles to understanding. They are what make the event eternally compelling. They remind us that the universe is vast, unpredictable, and often beyond our immediate comprehension. Tunguska is a story written in trees, soil, and memory, inviting us to question what we know, what we assume, and how small we truly are in the face of cosmic power. The forest whispers, the sky speaks, and the mystery endures, challenging every new generation to listen, to wonder, and perhaps to understand. As technology advanced in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, scientists found themselves equipped with unprecedented tools to approach the Tunguska event. Computer simulations, atmospheric modeling, and high-speed physics calculations allowed researchers to reconstruct the catastrophic explosion with a precision that Kulik could only have imagined. These models were more than academic exercises. They were virtual journeys into the past, attempting to capture the energy, trajectory, and destructive patterns of a phenomenon that had, for decades, defied understanding. The simulations revealed something both astonishing and terrifying. The object responsible for Tunguska, likely a comet or asteroid, had exploded several kilometers above the Earth's surface, releasing energy estimated between 10 and 15 megatons of TNT. To put this in perspective, it was hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bombs dropped during World War II. Yet despite this immense energy, the object left virtually no crater. The explosion's energy radiated outward, flattening millions of trees in a radial pattern, scorching soil and vegetation, and leaving behind a forest that, even decades later, whispered of cosmic violence. Computer modeling allowed scientists to test the specifics of the airburst. By simulating different entry angles, speeds, and compositions of the celestial object, researchers could compare predicted destruction patterns with the real radial patterns observed by Kulik in modern expeditions. The results confirmed that a mid-air explosion could account for most of the anomalies: the absence of a crater, the concentric rings of fallen trees, and the directional scorching patterns. Yet even with these models, some details remain elusive. Subtle soil anomalies, the mysterious metallic fragments, and the reports of strange lights and sounds hinted at additional forces that conventional physics struggled to fully explain. Simulations also illuminated the atmospheric dynamics of the event. As the object entered Earth's atmosphere, it would have generated an immense shockwave, compressing air and heat in a manner that propagated outward at supersonic speeds. This blast was capable of knocking humans off their feet hundreds of kilometers away, shattering windows in distant villages and sending animals into blind panic. By modeling these effects, scientists gained insights not only into Tunguska's destructive power, but also into the fragility of human settlements in the face of cosmic forces. Even without a direct impact, the energy alone was enough to devastate landscapes, demonstrating the terrifying potential of mid-air explosions. The simulations also explored the role of the object's composition. A comet, primarily composed of ice and dust, would have vaporized almost entirely upon entering the atmosphere, explaining the scarcity of metallic debris. In contrast, a stony asteroid might have left more recoverable fragments. By testing different scenarios, researchers found that a low-density, fast-moving object best fit the observed evidence. This insight, while compelling, did not eliminate the mystery. It raised further questions about how such an object could enter the atmosphere undetected and release energy with such precise directionality. Perhaps most fascinating were the simulations that examined secondary phenomena, electromagnetic effects, localized heating, and radiation anomalies. These models suggested that an airburst of Tunguska's magnitude could produce ionization in the upper atmosphere, create temporary magnetic disturbances, and even affect local weather patterns. Such effects align with early eyewitness accounts of strange lights, metallic smells, and unusual animal behavior. The simulations bridged the gap between physics and human observation, showing that the event was not only a physical explosion, but also a multidimensional phenomenon that interacted with the environment in subtle, unpredictable ways. The emotional resonance of these simulations cannot be understated. While the models provided answers to many technical questions, they also reinforced the sheer terror and awe of Tunguska. Visualizing the energy radiating outward, flattening millions of trees, and propagating through the atmosphere evokes a visceral understanding of the explosion's magnitude. For researchers, the simulations are a way of stepping into history, of witnessing a cosmic event from multiple perspectives, and of grappling with forces far beyond human control. They offer clarity, yet simultaneously preserve the mystery, reminding us that some aspects of the universe remain untouchable, even to our most sophisticated tools. Modern simulations also allowed scientists to explore hypothetical scenarios beyond Tunguska. What if such an object struck a populated area? How might different atmospheric conditions affect the explosion? By answering these questions, Tunguska became not only a historical case study, but a blueprint for understanding cosmic threats. The research transformed the event from an isolated anomaly into a cautionary tale, a warning that Earth is constantly exposed to forces far larger than itself, and that understanding them requires both science and imagination. Yet, despite the precision of modern modeling, a sense of mystery endures. The simulations can recreate the blast, predict its effects, and even estimate the object's probable size and composition, but they cannot answer the ultimate question. What exactly was Tunguska? Even with all the data, all the models, and all the technology, the celestial intruder remains elusive. Its absence, its invisibility, and its capacity to transform an entire landscape in an instant ensure that the event retains a sense of wonder, awe, and subtle fear. In this sense, the simulations do more than explain. They provoke reflection. They allow humanity to understand the forces that shaped Tunguska, yet simultaneously remind us of the vastness and unpredictability of the universe. The event is both knowable and unknowable, a fusion of empirical science and cosmic mystery. It stands as a testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and perseverance, and as a humbling reminder that the cosmos operates on scales that often defy comprehension. As we continue to explore the story of Tunguska, the simulations provide a bridge between past and present, observation and imagination, evidence and emotion. They illuminate the physical reality of the explosion while preserving the mystery that has captivated scientists, historians, and dreamers for over a century. Tunguska is no longer just a historical event. It is a narrative written in energy, earth, and memory, a tale of cosmic power that continues to challenge and inspire. While scientists studied the trees, soil, and skies for decades, the human stories of the Tunguska event remain some of the most haunting and emotionally compelling elements of the mystery. Eyewitness accounts provided an intimate, visceral perspective on the day the sky exploded, offering glimpses into terror, awe, and the raw unpredictability of nature. For those who experienced it firsthand, Tunguska was not merely an astronomical anomaly. It was a moment when the familiar world became utterly alien, a collision between humanity and cosmic power. In the remote villages scattered across the Siberian taiga, people recalled the morning of June 30th, 1908, as a day when the sun suddenly blazed brighter than ever before. Some described a fireball streaking across the sky, so intense that it seemed to illuminate the landscape like daylight. The light was blinding, so sudden and so fierce that villagers shielded their eyes, fearing the sky itself had caught fire. Moments later, a deafening roar swept through the region, shaking the earth, breaking windows, and knocking people off their feet. Those who survived described a simultaneous mixture of awe and panic, sensing a force far beyond anything they had ever encountered. Children and adults alike witnessed trees exploding like torches, with bark peeling and leaves igniting in an instant. Reindeer and horses bolted into the forests, their instinctive fear amplifying the chaos. Villagers recounted that the air was thick with a metallic taste, the smell of burnt wood and ozone filling their lungs. Some reported tremors underfoot, as though the earth itself had shuddered. These human observations align with modern scientific modeling, suggesting a combination of extreme heat, shock waves, and electromagnetic effects. Yet they also add a deeply personal, emotional layer that cannot be captured in equations or satellite images. Some accounts were particularly surreal. Eyewitnesses spoke of multiple fireballs moving erratically across the sky, changing color from white to red to blue, leaving trails that lingered longer than natural phenomena should. Others recalled hearing the sound of the explosion before seeing the light, a reversal of expectation that added a disorienting, almost dreamlike quality to the event. Children hid under benches and tables, women clutched one another, and elders attempted to interpret the signs through superstition and ancestral knowledge. In these moments, Tunguska was not only a physical event, but a profound psychological shock, an encounter with the unknown on both cosmic and human scales. The Evenki people, indigenous to the region, offered accounts that combined observation with cultural interpretation. They described the sky fire as an entity, almost alive, moving with intent, striking fear into humans and animals alike. Their stories preserved subtle details that later expeditions would confirm scientifically, such as the radial patterns of destruction and the directionality of the blast. Yet they also added emotional depth. The event was not only terrifying, it was sacred, awe-inspiring, and impossible to ignore. Through their eyes, Tunguska was both a natural catastrophe and a cosmic message, a reminder of forces beyond human control or comprehension. These personal stories also highlighted the randomness and unpredictability of survival. Some villages, located just kilometers apart, were spared significant damage, while others were struck with almost perfect alignment to the radial devastation. Families recounted narrowly avoiding injury or death, attributing their survival to instinct, chance, or even divine intervention. The psychological impact of this randomness, knowing that the same force that leveled one village passed harmlessly over another, added to the collective trauma and awe of the event. Tunguska was not only an environmental catastrophe, but a profound lesson in human vulnerability and the limits of control. As word of the event spread beyond Siberia, additional testimonies emerged from people hundreds of kilometers away. Tremors were felt across distant regions, atmospheric phenomena observed in European skies, and aurora-like lights reported far from the epicenter. These distant accounts reinforced the idea that Tunguska was not a localized anomaly, but a cosmic-scale event, influencing regions far beyond its immediate impact zone. They also highlighted the interplay between the physical and psychological dimensions of the explosion. Witnesses everywhere felt a mixture of fear, awe, and profound curiosity. For scientists like Kulik, these eyewitness accounts were invaluable. They provided data points that could be mapped, correlated, and compared with physical evidence in the forest. Yet beyond their scientific utility, they preserved the human dimension of Tunguska, the terror, wonder, and emotional resonance that pure data could never capture. The accounts serve as a bridge between the empirical and the experiential, reminding us that disasters, mysteries, and cosmic phenomena are as much about human perception as they are about objective reality. Even decades later, these stories continue to captivate. Modern researchers, historians, and documentary storytellers revisit the narratives, reconstructing scenes of blinding light, rolling thunder, and panicked animals. In doing so, they convey not only the scale of the event, but also its emotional and psychological impact. Tunguska becomes a shared human experience, a moment when the ordinary world was shattered, when the sky erupted with a force that dwarfed comprehension, and when humanity was forced to confront both awe and terror in equal measure. Ultimately, the eyewitness accounts serve as a reminder that Tunguska is more than an astrophysical puzzle or a forest scar. It is a human story, a chronicle of fear, courage, and survival, captured in the memories of those who stood in the shadow of incomprehensible power. These narratives preserve the emotional resonance of the event, ensuring that Tunguska is remembered not only as a cosmic anomaly, but as a profoundly human encounter with the unknown. Years after his initial journeys, Leonid Kulik returned to the Siberian wilderness, driven by an unrelenting obsession to uncover the ultimate truth of Tunguska. His first expedition had revealed the radial devastation, scorched trees, and subtle anomalies in the soil, but the question that haunted him, and generations of scientists, remained unanswered. Where was the object responsible? The epicenter of the explosion seemed to mock him, an invisible heart beating silently beneath the forest floor, leaving evidence that was both tantalizingly present and maddeningly elusive. Kulik's later expeditions were grueling. He traversed hundreds of kilometers of dense taiga, carrying instruments, maps, and notebooks, often navigating uncharted terrain in extreme weather. The physical challenge was immense. Mosquitoes, frost, and exhaustion tested his endurance daily. It was the mental and emotional toll that proved most profound. Every fallen tree, every scorched patch of earth, every metallic fragment that hinted at a celestial visitor brought him closer to the truth, but also reminded him of the mysteries that defied explanation. Tunguska was a puzzle whose pieces refused to fit neatly, a landscape that spoke in riddles rather than answers. One of Kulik's primary objectives was to locate the epicenter, the point in the forest where the invisible force had been at its maximum. The radial patterns of fallen trees offered clues, but the precision required to identify a single focal point in such a vast expanse was staggering. Using compasses, measurements, and careful mapping, Kulik and his team worked tirelessly, triangulating angles, calculating distances, and noting variations in scorch marks. The forest, though regenerating slowly, still bore the scars of the blast, each tree a silent witness to the extraordinary forces that had passed through it decades earlier. Despite his meticulous methods, the epicenter remained elusive. In some areas, the forest regrowth obscured key evidence. In others, small watercourses or soil disturbances complicated the analysis. Yet Kulik's perseverance never wavered. He understood that every fragment, every deviation in the radial pattern could be a vital clue. The search for the epicenter became both a scientific mission and a psychological journey, a test of human determination against a mystery written in energy and time. Metallic fragments were another focal point of Kulik's investigations. Early in his expeditions, he had discovered rare, silvery pieces scattered across the taiga, tantalizing hints of a celestial origin. These fragments, though small, suggested that something had indeed descended from the sky with tremendous energy. Yet their scarcity was confounding. If an object capable of releasing 10 to 15 megatons of energy had exploded, why were there so few remnants? Each discovery fueled both excitement and frustration, a reminder that Tunguska was not just a physical phenomenon, but a riddle that challenged expectations, intuition, and conventional science. Kulik meticulously collected, cataloged, and analyzed every fragment. He observed unusual compositions, structures that did not match typical terrestrial minerals, and shapes that hinted at intense heat and shock. These fragments, while insufficient to provide a definitive answer, became keys to hypothesizing about the object's origin: asteroid, comet, or something even more unusual. Each piece carried the weight of cosmic mystery, a silent testament to a force that had arrived, struck, and vanished without leaving a conventional footprint. The emotional intensity of these expeditions was palpable. Standing amidst fallen trees, pointing toward the invisible epicenter, Kulik often wrote about a profound mix of awe, fear, and determination. He understood that Tunguska represented more than a historical event. It was a confrontation with forces far beyond human comprehension. Each step through the forest, each measurement, and each fragment examined brought him closer to understanding, yet underscored humanity's limitations when faced with the immense scale and unpredictability of the cosmos. Local guides, often Evenki hunters, provided crucial insights. They remembered their ancestors' oral histories, flashes of light, roaring sounds, and inexplicable phenomena that accompanied the event. These accounts guided Kulik to areas that might otherwise have been overlooked, combining human memory with empirical observation. In many ways, the collaboration between scientists and indigenous knowledge became essential, bridging the gap between formal investigation and the intangible memory of those who had lived through or inherited the stories of the catastrophe. Despite the physical and mental challenges, Kulik persisted. Each expedition, while yielding incremental discoveries, also highlighted the enduring elusiveness of Tunguska's epicenter and metallic remnants. The event seemed to taunt him, leaving clues yet withholding the ultimate answer. In his journals, he reflected on the paradox of the explosion, a force so powerful it could level 2,000 square kilometers of forest, yet one that left no traditional crater and only scattered, mysterious fragments. It was as if Tunguska existed both in reality and as an enigma, tangible yet untouchable, a puzzle suspended between the observable and the unknowable. Kulik's later expeditions also revealed new anomalies in the landscape. Certain soil patches contained unusual chemical traces, areas of magnetism deviated from normal patterns, and clusters of scorched vegetation appeared in unexpected alignments. These discoveries fueled additional theories about energy propagation, airburst dynamics, and even exotic physics. Each anomaly reminded him, and the world, that Tunguska was not just an isolated historical event. It was a phenomenon that challenged assumptions about energy, matter, and the relationship between the Earth and the cosmos. By the end of his expeditions, Kulik had created one of the most comprehensive records of the Tunguska area to date. His maps, sketches, and notes captured the radial devastation, the rare metallic fragments, and the subtle anomalies that hinted at a force beyond ordinary explanation. Yet, despite these monumental achievements, the ultimate mystery remained. The object responsible, the epicenter itself, and the full mechanism of destruction were still shrouded in uncertainty. The journey, as much as the discoveries, became a testament to human curiosity, courage, and the relentless pursuit of understanding in the face of cosmic wonder. In the silent Siberian forest, decades after the explosion, the landscape bore witness to human perseverance and cosmic indifference alike. Kulik's footsteps traced paths that the sky fire had once crossed. His eyes cataloged patterns that spoke of invisible energy, and his hands carefully preserved fragments of a story written in ice, metal, and wood. Tunguska, in all its mystery, remained a mirror of human curiosity and humility, a reminder that even the most determined minds must sometimes grapple with the unknowable, standing between awe and comprehension, between evidence and wonder. As the decades passed and scientific investigations continued, the Tunguska event began to attract not only mainstream researchers, but also a wave of alternative thinkers, speculative theorists, and imaginative minds drawn to its mystery. While the asteroid and comet hypotheses offered the most conventional explanations, a spectrum of more unconventional ideas emerged, some bordering on the fantastical, yet all fueled by the same unyielding desire to make sense of an event that seemed to defy explanation. These theories, controversial yet captivating, added layers of intrigue to an already enigmatic story. One of the earliest alternative hypotheses proposed that Tunguska might have been caused by a micro-black hole passing through the Earth. According to this idea, a subatomic, incredibly dense particle could have penetrated the atmosphere and crust without leaving a conventional crater, yet released massive amounts of energy as it interacted with the planet. While highly speculative and largely dismissed by mainstream physics, this concept resonated with the imagination. A tiny object from the depths of the cosmos, invisible to human senses, capable of reshaping landscapes and terrifying entire communities. The notion of an unseen cosmic visitor only amplified the emotional gravity of the Tunguska event. Another fringe theory explored the idea of antimatter. Could the Tunguska explosion have resulted from a rare interaction between an antimatter fragment and ordinary matter? The annihilation of matter and antimatter releases extraordinary amounts of energy without leaving conventional debris, which could account for the peculiar absence of a crater and the scattered metallic fragments. While the theory remains controversial, it highlights the depth of human curiosity and the willingness to challenge conventional boundaries in the search for answers. The very suggestion that antimatter, something largely theoretical in 1908, might have touched Siberia conjures an image of the cosmos as a vast, unpredictable force with secrets we are only beginning to glimpse. Perhaps the most sensational alternative theories involve extraterrestrial intervention. UFO researchers and speculative theorists have suggested that Tunguska was the result of advanced technology, either an alien probe malfunctioning or a deliberate act by unknown visitors. Witness accounts of strange lights, fireballs that change direction, and anomalies in sound and electromagnetic effects provide the foundation for these ideas. While there is no definitive evidence to support such claims, the persistence of these theories speaks to the human fascination with the unknown and the longing to find meaning in phenomena that elude conventional explanation. Other unconventional hypotheses explore the possibility of exotic natural phenomena, Some theorists propose that the event was caused by a sudden release of natural gases trapped beneath the Siberian tundra, interacting with atmospheric conditions in a unique and violent way. Others suggest electromagnetic or plasma-like effects, where energy from the Earth or sky itself could have manifested in a catastrophic explosion. These ideas, while speculative, demonstrate a willingness to entertain the unknown, bridging gaps between hard science, imagination, and the mysterious forces that may still shape our world in ways we do not fully understand. The allure of these fringe theories is not only in their novelty, but in their emotional resonance. They transform Tunguska from a historical and scientific anomaly into a story of cosmic wonder, existential uncertainty, and human curiosity. Each theory, no matter how speculative, forces us to confront the vastness of the universe and our limited understanding of its forces. They evoke the same mixture of awe and fear that the original witnesses must have felt, an instinctive recognition that the universe is far stranger and more powerful than we can easily comprehend. Interestingly, even skeptics of fringe theories acknowledge their value. These hypotheses, though often unproven, inspire scientific inquiry, encourage creative thinking, and highlight the limitations of conventional methods. By challenging assumptions and asking "what if?", they open the door to new perspectives, prompting researchers to consider possibilities beyond standard models. In this way, the very strangeness of Tunguska becomes a tool for discovery, a reminder that curiosity itself is a vital component of human progress. Cultural interpretations also play a role in the proliferation of alternative theories. Stories passed down through indigenous Evenki traditions, combined with local folklore and European accounts of unusual celestial phenomena, created a fertile ground for imaginative explanations. These narratives often emphasize the spiritual or supernatural dimensions of the event, framing Tunguska as a warning, a cosmic message, or a manifestation of unseen forces. While not scientific in the conventional sense, these interpretations capture the emotional and psychological impact of the event, preserving its mystery in ways that raw data alone cannot. The cumulative effect of these alternative hypotheses is profound. Tunguska is no longer simply an airburst or a forest scar. It is a narrative space where imagination, science, and human experience intersect. It challenges the boundary between the known and the unknown, the real and the speculative. Every unconventional theory, from micro black holes to alien intervention, is a reflection of the enduring power of Tunguska to captivate minds, provoke questions, and inspire awe. Even within the scientific community, the presence of these fringe ideas underscores a critical truth. Tunguska operates on multiple levels. It is an event of measurable physical phenomena, yet it also resonates emotionally, culturally, and philosophically. The forest, scorched and radial, speaks both to the forces of physics and to the human psyche, reminding us that some events cannot be understood solely through equations or observations. They demand imagination, empathy, and reflection, a recognition that the cosmos operates on scales and in ways that often transcend human comprehension. Ultimately, the alternative theories surrounding Tunguska do more than explain. They provoke reflection, curiosity, and awe. They encourage us to consider the unknown, to question the limits of science, and to confront the possibility that the universe is far stranger than we imagine. Tunguska is a puzzle, a story, and a mirror. It reflects not only the forces of the cosmos, but also the human desire to seek understanding, meaning, and connection in the face of the mysterious. In embracing these speculative ideas, we honor the full scope of Tunguska's legacy. It is a story of energy, destruction, and cosmic power, yes, but it is also a story of imagination, resilience, and the unending human quest to explore the unknown. Each hypothesis, conventional or fringe, adds a layer to this narrative, creating a rich tapestry of science, wonder, and mystery that continues to captivate the world more than a century later. Even after decades of research, Tunguska remained a puzzle that fueled heated scientific debates. Each new expedition, simulation, or discovery only deepened the mystery, highlighting both the progress made and the questions that stubbornly resisted explanation. Across laboratories, universities, and remote forests, scientists grappled not only with the evidence but also with each other, debating hypotheses, challenging assumptions, and refining theories in an effort to capture the essence of an event that seemed almost designed to evade comprehension. The core controversy centered on the object itself. Was it a comet, an asteroid, or something far stranger? The majority of mainstream researchers leaned toward the comet hypothesis, a fragment of ice and rock entering Earth's atmosphere at tremendous speed, exploding midair, and releasing the energy necessary to flatten 2,000 square kilometers of forest. Simulations and calculations supported this view, matching treefall patterns, scorch marks, and shockwave propagation. Yet the lack of substantial metallic fragments complicated this narrative. How could an object of such power leave almost no trace? The debate over composition remains central to scientific discourse, even today. Asteroid proponents argued for a stony or metallic object, suggesting that a fragment might have disintegrated upon atmospheric entry, leaving the sparse remnants found by Kulik and subsequent expeditions. Computer models could approximate trajectories and blast energy for such an object, but again, the scarcity of evidence led to skepticism. Critics questioned whether a conventional asteroid could account for the reported atmospheric anomalies, strange lights, and electromagnetic disturbances witnessed over vast distances. Tunguska, in essence, was revealing the limits of our conventional models, challenging scientists to think beyond standard explanations. Electromagnetic effects became another focus of controversy. Some researchers proposed that the airburst generated unusual magnetic and electric fields, potentially explaining the accounts of people experiencing a metallic taste in the air, temporary paralysis of telegraph lines, and even reports of glowing phenomena. While intriguing, these claims were difficult to verify and sparked debates about whether witnesses misinterpreted natural occurrences or if the physics itself had truly created these anomalies. Each piece of evidence fueled discussion, with some scientists leaning toward conventional interpretations, while others explored more exotic possibilities. Further complicating the discourse were conflicting eyewitness testimonies. Villagers reported fireballs, rotating lights, and sounds that sometimes contradicted one another, creating a patchwork of narratives that challenged straightforward analysis. Historians and scientists had to carefully weigh these accounts, parsing details for consistency while acknowledging the limitations of human perception in moments of extreme stress. The tension between empirical evidence and anecdotal observation became a hallmark of Tunguska research, highlighting the interplay between data, narrative, and interpretation. Geological debates added another layer of complexity. The radial pattern of tree destruction, soil anomalies, and variations in regrowth prompted scientists to propose increasingly sophisticated models. Some suggested that shockwave reflections, secondary explosions, or atmospheric turbulence could account for unusual observations. Others examined the possibility of a multi-stage airburst or fragmentation of the object, arguing that energy distribution could create the patterns observed without invoking exotic physics. Each model brought new insights, but none could claim to fully resolve the mystery, leaving room for continued debate and speculation. International collaboration became both a necessity and a source of contention. Soviet researchers, Western scientists, and interdisciplinary teams often interpreted the same data differently, influenced by methodology, theoretical frameworks, and even political context. Conferences and published papers became arenas for rigorous discussion, where simulations were scrutinized, field reports questioned, and hypotheses challenged. These debates highlighted the human side of science, ambition, pride, and the relentless drive to uncover truth, even when that truth remained tantalizingly out of reach. The Tunguska controversy also revealed deeper philosophical questions. How do we define evidence? How much weight should eyewitness accounts carry when physical traces are limited? Can simulations ever fully capture the complexity of a cosmic explosion interacting with a dense, living forest? Tunguska forced scientists to confront the limitations of observation, measurement, and interpretation, reminding them that some phenomena might operate at the edge of human comprehension. In this sense, the event was not just a scientific problem, but a meditation on the nature of knowledge itself. Public interest amplified the controversies. Popular books, documentaries, and media accounts often sensationalized aspects of the event, emphasizing UFO theories, cosmic anomalies, or dramatic reconstructions. While these accounts sometimes distorted scientific findings, they also ensured that Tunguska remained a cultural touchstone, inspiring curiosity and debate far beyond academic circles. Scientists found themselves not only defending theories, but also engaging with a captivated audience eager for answers, blending rigorous research with storytelling in ways that echoed the very drama of the original event. Despite disagreements, the debates have spurred remarkable progress. Each controversy, each alternative interpretation, has driven innovation in simulation technology, geophysical surveying, and interdisciplinary collaboration. The controversies themselves have become a catalyst for discovery, forcing researchers to refine methods, question assumptions, and pursue ever more creative approaches. Tunguska, in this sense, is both a mystery and a teacher, shaping the way science approaches extreme, poorly documented, and anomalous events. Ultimately, the enduring scientific debates underscore the richness of Tunguska as a phenomenon. It is not merely an airburst or a historical event. It is a convergence of evidence, imagination, and human inquiry. The controversies, far from diminishing the event, enhance its significance, illustrating the dynamic tension between knowledge and uncertainty, observation and interpretation, reality and wonder. Tunguska remains a living challenge to the human intellect and spirit, a reminder that even in an age of technology and information, the cosmos retains its power to mystify, inspire, and humble. In the end, the debates themselves are part of Tunguska's legacy. They reflect the passion, curiosity, and resilience of those who seek to understand the unknown, while also preserving the sense of awe and mystery that defines the event. Science continues to probe, question, and simulate, yet the forest, the sky, and the echoes of that fateful June day maintain their enigmatic presence. Tunguska endures not only as a subject of study, but as a story of human perseverance in the face of the vast, uncharted, and incomprehensible forces of the universe. Though it occurred in a remote stretch of Siberian wilderness, the Tunguska event resonated far beyond the taiga, leaving a legacy that would ripple across science, culture, and the human imagination. In the early 20th century, news of the explosion took months to reach the wider world, delayed by geography and political isolation. Yet once word spread, scientists, writers, and curious observers alike were captivated by the idea that the sky itself had unleashed unimaginable power upon Earth. Tunguska became a symbol, a stark reminder that even in the modern era, humanity remains vulnerable to cosmic forces far beyond control. The scientific ramifications were immediate and profound. Researchers across Europe and the Americas began studying the event as a case study in cosmic hazards. Tunguska provided one of the first concrete examples of the catastrophic potential of near-Earth objects, long before asteroid impact mitigation became a serious field of study. The notion that a relatively small celestial body could flatten thousands of square kilometers without leaving a conventional crater revolutionized understanding of planetary defense, forcing scientists to reconsider assumptions about impact physics, atmospheric entry, and energy distribution. Tunguska's influence extended into the emerging field of astrophysics. By examining eyewitness accounts, radial forest patterns, and limited fragments, researchers developed models of airburst phenomena, calculating the energy release, shockwave propagation, and atmospheric interactions that define the event. These studies informed future investigations of meteors, comets, and potential asteroid impacts, providing a framework that remains relevant in modern planetary science. Tunguska became a benchmark, a reminder that even a single event in a remote region could reshape scientific paradigms and inspire technological innovation. Beyond pure science, Tunguska captured the popular imagination. Writers, journalists, and storytellers were drawn to the drama, the mystery, and the almost mythical nature of the explosion. Newspapers speculated wildly, offering explanations ranging from exploding meteors to secret military experiments, and even visits from extraterrestrial civilizations. The event became part of cultural folklore, appearing in novels, films, and documentaries, each retelling adding layers of human interpretation and emotional resonance. Through these stories, Tunguska evolved from a physical event into a narrative, a symbol of awe, fear, and human curiosity in the face of the unknown. The event also had a profound influence on disaster preparedness and risk assessment. Scientists realized that even unpopulated regions like Siberia could serve as laboratories for understanding cosmic hazards. Modeling the potential devastation of similar events near populated areas underscored the vulnerability of human civilization to celestial phenomena. Tunguska's lessons inspired research into early warning systems, impact simulations, and emergency response strategies, practical measures rooted in the visceral understanding of what one event could unleash. In this way, Tunguska bridged imagination and pragmatism, emphasizing both wonder and caution. Tunguska's legacy is also philosophical and emotional. It represents a confrontation with forces that operate on scales beyond human comprehension, a reminder of the fragility of our existence and the unpredictability of the cosmos. Standing in the radial forest today, with trees scarred and soil subtly altered, one feels the enduring presence of the event, as if the air itself remembers the blast. This tangible connection between past and present, human and cosmic, instills both humility and awe, forging a deep emotional resonance that persists across generations. Cultural interpretations, particularly among indigenous populations, preserve aspects of this emotional legacy. Evenki and other local communities recount ancestral stories of the sky fire, blending memory, myth, and observation into narratives that enrich scientific understanding. These stories highlight the human capacity to contextualize extraordinary events, integrating fear, reverence, and wonder into communal memory. In doing so, they ensure that Tunguska is remembered not only as a scientific curiosity, but as a shared human experience, a moment when the ordinary world collided with forces beyond imagination. Tunguska's global reach is further evidenced in the attention it garnered from the international scientific community. Conferences, papers, and interdisciplinary research emerged, fostering collaboration across borders and disciplines. Astrophysicists, geologists, physicists, and even historians examined the event from multiple angles, exploring its implications for science, safety, and philosophy. Tunguska became a nexus point, a rare event that bridged diverse fields, demonstrating the value of integrated inquiry and the richness of perspectives when confronting phenomena that defy easy explanation. The fascination with Tunguska continues into the modern era. With satellite imagery, drone surveys, and advanced computer simulations, scientists and enthusiasts alike revisit the taiga, mapping its scars, analyzing soil, and modeling the energy dynamics of the airburst. Each new tool adds precision, yet the event retains its enigmatic allure. No matter how advanced our technology becomes, the core mystery endures. The object responsible, the precise mechanism of destruction, and the full range of secondary phenomena remain elusive. This tension between knowledge and mystery is central to Tunguska's ongoing appeal, inspiring both scientific inquiry and imaginative storytelling. Moreover, Tunguska serves as a cautionary tale. It reminds humanity that even in a technologically advanced age, the universe operates on scales and with energies that can render civilization momentarily insignificant. It challenges us to consider planetary defense, environmental vulnerability, and the ethical dimensions of risk management. Tunguska's message is clear. Understanding is vital, but humility is essential. In the face of cosmic power, curiosity alone is insufficient. Preparation, foresight, and respect for the unknown are equally critical. In the final analysis, Tunguska is more than a historical incident. It is a story of science and mystery, terror and awe, observation and imagination. Its global legacy encompasses physics, literature, culture, and philosophy, weaving together threads of human inquiry, curiosity, and resilience. From the scorched Siberian forest to international scientific journals, from folklore to modern simulation, Tunguska continues to captivate, challenge, and inspire. It reminds us that the universe is vast, unpredictable, and filled with phenomena that demand both understanding and wonder. Even a century after the explosion, Tunguska continues to defy expectations, drawing scientists, explorers, and amateur enthusiasts to the Siberian taiga in pursuit of answers. Modern technology has transformed the way researchers approach the event, offering tools that Kulik and his contemporaries could scarcely imagine. Satellite imagery, aerial surveys, drone reconnaissance, and advanced geophysical instrumentation have revealed previously hidden details, providing new perspectives on an event that remains as enigmatic as ever. Remote sensing technologies allow scientists to examine the forest from above, identifying patterns in tree regrowth, subtle topographical anomalies, and areas where the soil may contain traces of the original blast. High-resolution satellite images reveal concentric patterns invisible to the naked eye, radial devastation zones, and clusters of forest recovery that correspond to theoretical energy dispersion models. By combining these observations with historical data, researchers can triangulate likely epicenters and reconstruct aspects of the explosion that remained speculative for decades. Drones, equipped with LiDAR, light detection and ranging technology, have revolutionized field investigations. By scanning the landscape in 3 dimensions, scientists can detect subtle variations in terrain, fallen trees, and soil composition, creating precise models of the impact area. These scans allow for detailed mapping of tree fall directions, scorch patterns, and ground depressions that might indicate where fragments landed or where energy concentrations were highest. LiDAR has illuminated previously inaccessible regions, uncovering anomalies that were invisible in traditional surveys and allowing scientists to build comprehensive digital reconstructions of the blast zone. Soil analysis has become another critical frontier. Modern techniques, such as isotopic analysis, trace metal detection, and microscopic examination, have revealed anomalies that hint at the composition of the cosmic object. Rare metallic particles, unusual isotopic ratios, and traces of elements like nickel, iron, and silica provide clues about the object's origin and its interaction with Earth's atmosphere. While these fragments remain scarce and fragmented, each discovery contributes to the growing body of evidence, offering tantalizing hints that complement both historical accounts and computer simulations. Magnetometry surveys have detected subtle anomalies in the blast area, suggesting that localized electromagnetic effects may have been stronger than previously understood. These findings could explain early reports of strange sensations among witnesses, temporary disruptions of electrical equipment, and even unusual atmospheric phenomena observed at great distances. By combining these magnetic surveys with soil and debris analysis, scientists are piecing together a multidimensional picture of Tunguska, one that accounts not only for the physical destruction, but also for the more mysterious, intangible effects recorded in eyewitness testimonies. Perhaps most intriguing are the new insights gained from computer modeling and simulations. Using modern supercomputers, researchers can test countless variables, from object composition and velocity to atmospheric density and energy release. These models allow scientists to visualize shockwave propagation, thermal radiation effects, and even secondary phenomena like fireballs and electromagnetic disturbances. The simulations corroborate many historical observations while also revealing unexpected dynamics, such as localized overpressure zones and irregular energy dispersion patterns, which continue to fuel debate and speculation about the event's precise mechanics. The integration of historical data with modern technology has also enabled interdisciplinary studies. Historians, physicists, geologists, and ecologists collaborate to understand the event not only as a physical phenomenon, but also as an ecological and cultural one. Tree ring studies reveal the precise timing of the forest devastation, while ecological surveys examine how flora and fauna have adapted to the aftermath over the decades. This holistic approach underscores the fact that Tunguska is not merely an astronomical curiosity. It is a complex environmental and historical event with long-lasting consequences. International collaboration has accelerated progress. Russian, European, and North American teams share data, techniques, and interpretations, allowing for cross-validation and innovative methodologies. Conferences, joint field expeditions, and online repositories of images and measurements create a global network of researchers, ensuring that every new discovery contributes to a growing collective understanding. Despite the persistent mysteries, this collaborative approach demonstrates the enduring appeal of Tunguska and the human drive to comprehend events that challenge both science and imagination. Even with modern investigations, the mystery remains. The epicenter is estimated with increasing precision, yet subtle anomalies persist. Metallic fragments, while better documented, are few and irregular, raising questions about the object's composition and behavior. Some areas show unusual soil chemistry, suggesting exotic materials or previously unconsidered physical processes. These ongoing uncertainties remind researchers that Tunguska was not a simple impact, but a multidimensional event, involving energy, matter, and atmospheric interactions that continue to elude full explanation. Importantly, these modern investigations also enhance our understanding of risk and preparedness. By analyzing Tunguska with contemporary tools, scientists can better predict the potential consequences of similar events today. Modeling the destruction, shockwaves, and environmental impact of airbursts informs planetary defense strategies, from early warning systems to mitigation technologies. Tunguska, once a remote mystery, has become a guidepost for modern humanity, linking the awe-inspiring past with practical concerns for the future. Yet beyond data and models, there's an emotional resonance to these modern expeditions. Scientists trekking through the Siberian taiga, scanning the scorched and regrowing forest, confront the tangible remnants of cosmic power. They witness the scars left on Earth, feel the quiet enormity of the blast's energy, and engage with the human stories preserved in memory and folklore. Modern tools provide clarity, but they also deepen the sense of wonder and humility. Tunguska is no longer just a historical event. It is a living, breathing challenge to human curiosity, intellect, and imagination. In combining technology, history, and human observation, modern investigations at Tunguska have created a multidimensional narrative. The forest, the soil, the fragments, and the simulations together tell a story of cosmic collision, human fascination, and relentless inquiry. Tunguska remains a mystery, yet it is a mystery approached with rigor, passion, and creativity. An enduring testament to humanity's drive to confront the unknown, map it, understand it, and ultimately reflect upon its meaning in the vastness of the cosmos. The Tunguska Event, with its dramatic sky fire, deafening roar, and seemingly inexplicable destruction, captured not only the attention of scientists but also the imaginations of storytellers worldwide. From the moment news of the explosion spread beyond Siberia, writers, filmmakers, and artists found themselves drawn to the mystery. A perfect blend of cosmic terror, human vulnerability, and unfathomable power. Tunguska quickly transcended its geographic isolation, becoming a cultural phenomenon that bridged science, myth, and imagination. In literature, Tunguska inspired both factual and fictional interpretations. Early 20th century authors used it as a plot device to explore humanity's relationship with the cosmos, crafting stories that emphasize the fragility of civilization in the face of incomprehensible forces. Science fiction writers imagined alternative realities where Tunguska was the result of alien experimentation, secret government projects, or experiments with exotic matter. These narratives reflected the event's inherent drama, a sudden, invisible force that reshaped thousands of square kilometers without warning, challenging human perception, authority, and understanding. Film and visual media embraced the spectacle and mystery of Tunguska as well. Documentary filmmakers recreated the fateful June day with cinematic flair, blending historical records, eyewitness accounts, and atmospheric imagery to convey the awe and terror experienced by those in the blast zone. Animation and dramatized reenactments highlighted the explosion's scale and unpredictability, often emphasizing the human response, the fear, the curiosity, and the struggle to comprehend what had occurred. By focusing on both the cosmic and personal dimensions, filmmakers captured the emotional resonance of Tunguska, transforming scientific observation into visceral storytelling. Tunguska's allure also extended to the realm of conspiracy and speculation. The unusual nature of the explosion, its lack of a crater, sparse metallic debris, and strange eyewitness phenomena, provided fertile ground for alternative theories. UFO enthusiasts imagined alien intervention, secret Soviet experiments, or encounters with unknown technologies. Writers and theorists explored these possibilities in books, magazines, and online forums, contributing to a rich tapestry of intrigue that intertwined scientific curiosity with human fascination for the mysterious and unexplained. These stories, while speculative, amplified Tunguska's mythos, ensuring it remained a topic of global interest and imaginative exploration. In music and art, Tunguska inspired both subtle and dramatic interpretations. Composers created works evoking the sudden violence of the explosion, the eerie calm of the regrowing forest, and the tension between humanity and cosmic forces. Visual artists depicted the fireball streaking across the sky, radial devastation, and mysterious fragments scattered across the Siberian wilderness. Through these mediums, Tunguska became more than an event. It became a symbol of awe, danger, and human curiosity, a source of inspiration that transcended geography and era. Tunguska also entered educational narratives, becoming a case study in astronomy, geology, and environmental science. Students and enthusiasts worldwide examine the event not only for its scientific significance, but also for its dramatic storytelling potential. The combination of eyewitness accounts, visual evidence, and ongoing mystery makes Tunguska uniquely suited to inspire both critical thinking and imagination. Teachers use it as a tool to demonstrate how observation, analysis, and speculation intersect, emphasizing the balance between evidence and inquiry, fact and interpretation. The event's presence in popular culture underscores a fundamental human fascination, the collision of ordinary life with extraordinary, incomprehensible forces. Tunguska represents a moment when the familiar, the forest, villages, wildlife, was suddenly transformed by an almost supernatural energy. Writers, filmmakers, and artists tap into this dynamic, exploring the emotional and psychological dimensions as much as the physical ones. By dramatizing both human responses and cosmic scale, these interpretations preserve the emotional resonance of the event for contemporary audiences. Tunguska's influence is particularly evident in speculative fiction, where the explosion is often reimagined as a harbinger of larger, existential threats. In novels and films, it becomes a touchstone for exploring themes of survival, human insignificance, and the fragility of civilization. The event's unresolved mysteries, the missing epicenter, rare metallic fragments, and peculiar atmospheric phenomena provide endless opportunities for narrative innovation. Authors exploit these ambiguities, turning Tunguska into a story that is as much about human perception, fear, and curiosity as it is about physical destruction. The Siberian explosion also resonates in global media as a symbol of cosmic unpredictability. News outlets, podcasts, and online platforms frequently revisit Tunguska when discussing asteroid impacts, near misses, or planetary defense initiatives. The event serves as a historical anchor, reminding audiences that humanity is vulnerable to forces beyond its control and that even remote phenomena can have profound psychological and cultural impact. Tunguska, in this sense, transcends its scientific significance, becoming a cultural and philosophical touchstone that continues to inform public imagination. Ultimately, Tunguska in popular culture reflects the event's dual nature. It is both a concrete, historical phenomenon and a symbol of the unknown. Through literature, film, art, and speculation, the explosion is continually reinterpreted, each retelling layering human emotion, cosmic awe, and narrative drama atop the physical reality. It remains a story that captivates, terrifies, and inspires, reminding humanity of the fragile boundary between everyday life and the extraordinary, between comprehension and mystery. By entering the realms of fiction, media, and art, Tunguska ensures its longevity not only as a scientific curiosity, but as a narrative force. Its story becomes collective memory, shared imagination, and a persistent challenge to human understanding. The event invites reflection, speculation, and wonder, urging each generation to confront the unknown and to imagine the vast, powerful, and unpredictable forces that surround our fragile world. The Siberian taiga, vast, silent, and ancient, bore witness to a catastrophe unlike any other on the planet. In the immediate aftermath of the Tunguska explosion, the forest was a scene of utter devastation. Trees flattened in radial patterns, scorched earth emitting faint smoke, and the scent of burnt resin lingering in the air for decades. For locals and observers alike, the landscape seemed apocalyptic, a frozen moment in which nature itself had been violently rewritten. Yet over time, the forest revealed its resilience, offering one of the most remarkable ecological stories of recovery ever recorded. The initial devastation was staggering. Approximately 2,000 square kilometers of forest were flattened in an instant, with trees stripped of branches or completely uprooted. The blast created a ghostly canopy, with radial patterns that seemed almost purposeful, as if the forest had been arranged to illustrate the trajectory of invisible forces. Beneath this skeletal canopy, wildlife struggled to survive. Birds, mammals, and insects faced sudden habitat loss, while the soil, scorched and nutrient-depleted in places, challenged the regrowth of plant life. Yet the forest, though traumatized, was not defeated. Nature's resilience manifested in both subtle and dramatic ways. Pioneer species, hardy grasses, shrubs, and fire-resistant trees were the first to recolonize the blasted landscape. These plants stabilized the soil, provided shelter for returning wildlife, and began the slow process of ecological succession. Over decades, the area transformed from charred wasteland into a mosaic of regrowth. Young trees pushing skyward, patches of undergrowth flourishing, and wildlife cautiously returning to territories once lost. This regeneration demonstrated the remarkable capacity of ecosystems to absorb shocks and re-establish equilibrium, even after events of extraordinary violence. Scientists studying Tunguska's ecological aftermath have uncovered patterns of recovery that provide valuable insights into forest dynamics. Tree ring analyses reveal slowed growth immediately after the explosion, followed by accelerated growth in surviving and new saplings. An adaptive response to increased sunlight, reduced competition, and nutrient shifts in the soil. Certain species dominated initially, while others gradually reclaimed their ecological niches, illustrating the delicate balance between resilience and vulnerability in post-catastrophe landscapes. The forest's regrowth serves as a natural laboratory, demonstrating both the power of disturbance and the inexorable persistence of life. The explosion's impact on wildlife was equally profound. Populations of mammals, birds, and insects were drastically reduced in the immediate aftermath, forcing survivors to adapt to altered habitats and disrupted food chains. Predators faced scarcity, herbivores sought new forage, and migratory patterns shifted in response to the transformed landscape. Over generations, species returned, adapted, or relocated, creating a dynamic equilibrium that continues to evolve. Researchers continue to study these patterns, uncovering clues about the long-term effects of sudden ecological upheaval and the capacity of life to recover after events that would seem insurmountable. Interestingly, Tunguska's ecological aftermath also offers insights into the broader consequences of airburst events. The forest recovery demonstrates how energy released high above the ground can simultaneously devastate and preserve, flattening trees without creating a conventional crater, while leaving soil and subterranean ecosystems largely intact. This unique interplay between destruction and survival provides a window into planetary-scale processes and informs modern ecological and disaster studies. It is a reminder that even catastrophic events are subject to the subtleties of natural resilience and environmental adaptation. Human interaction with the recovering forest adds another layer of complexity. Local Evenki communities, whose ancestors witnessed the event, have long noted changes in plant and animal behavior, incorporating these observations into oral histories and ecological knowledge. These accounts, combined with scientific studies, provide a richer understanding of the forest recovery, blending empirical observation with lived experience. The interplay of human memory, ecological data, and scientific investigation creates a multidimensional picture of the forest's resilience, one that continues to inspire both researchers and storytellers. Modern expeditions through the Tunguska region capture a striking visual contrast. Young saplings standing among fallen, charred giants, moss and fungi carpeting the forest floor where animals once fled, and rivers and streams flowing silently through areas that once shook with the blast's energy. Photographers and scientists alike describe an eerie beauty in this juxtaposition of destruction and regrowth. The landscape, scarred but thriving, becomes a metaphor for renewal, a testimony to the enduring power of life even in the aftermath of forces far beyond human control. The ecological story of Tunguska is not static. Every year, the forest changes, grows, and adapts. Insects colonize new habitats, birds exploit fresh feeding grounds, and plant communities adjust to shifting light, soil, and moisture conditions. Ecologists track these dynamics, uncovering patterns of succession and adaptation that inform broader studies of disturbance ecology. Tunguska's aftermath, once a scene of death and loss, has become a living laboratory, a window into how ecosystems respond to sudden, large-scale events, and how resilience emerges from catastrophe. Yet there remains a haunting aspect to the landscape. The radial patterns of fallen trees, the scattered fragments, and the subtle soil anomalies serve as constant reminders of the explosive power that once swept through the forest. While life has returned, the memory of the event is etched into the land itself, a permanent mark of cosmic intervention. Visitors to the area often report a sense of reverence and awe, an awareness of both the fragility and resilience of life, and a recognition that the universe can alter our world in ways that are sudden, violent, and profoundly transformative. In the end, the ecological recovery of Tunguska is both a scientific marvel and an emotional narrative. It illustrates nature's capacity for adaptation, the persistence of life in the face of devastation, and the delicate balance between destruction and renewal. The forest tells a story of resilience, endurance, and hope, a story that complements the scientific, historical, and cultural narratives of the event. Tunguska, in its ecological aftermath, is a living testament to the enduring interplay between cosmic forces and earthly life, reminding humanity that even in the wake of unimaginable destruction, life finds a way to endure, adapt, and flourish. Even over a century later, the Tunguska Event continues to defy full understanding. Despite decades of research, advanced simulations, and modern technology, certain anomalies remain stubbornly unexplained, ensuring that the Siberian airburst remains one of history's most captivating cosmic mysteries. These lingering questions are not minor details. They are paradoxes that challenge both conventional science and human imagination, inviting speculation, debate, and reflection. One of the most perplexing mysteries is the absence of a conventional impact crater. For an explosion of such magnitude, equivalent to several hundred Hiroshima bombs, scientists would normally expect a deep crater, a visible scar etched into the earth. Yet Tunguska left only flattened forests, scorched ground, and subtle soil depressions. The energy seemed to dissipate in the air itself, leaving minimal direct evidence on the ground. How could an object of immense destructive power vanish almost entirely upon entering the atmosphere? This paradox fuels ongoing debate and highlights the limits of our understanding of atmospheric physics and cosmic airbursts. Eyewitness reports provide another layer of anomaly. Locals described unusual fireballs, streaks of light zigzagging across the sky, and sounds that defied conventional explanation. Some reported seeing multiple objects or witnessing the main fireball change direction mid-flight. Even more peculiar were accounts of temporary paralysis of animals, strange electromagnetic effects, and glowing phenomena in the atmosphere. While skeptics argue that such reports may be exaggerated or misremembered, the sheer number of consistent details across independent testimonies suggests that there may have been real, anomalous effects accompanying the blast, effects that modern science has yet to fully explain. Fragmentary evidence adds to the intrigue. Scientists and explorers have discovered only tiny traces of metallic and silicate material, far less than expected from a typical asteroid or comet. The scarcity of fragments raises questions about the composition and nature of the object. Was it icy, stony, metallic, or was something entirely different? Some theorists speculate about exotic materials, even antimatter or unknown cosmic particles, though such ideas remain speculative. The puzzle of the missing debris continues to challenge assumptions and invites imaginative, sometimes audacious, hypotheses. Magnetic anomalies in the blast zone present yet another enigma. Surveys have revealed localized variations in the Earth's magnetic field that do not correspond to typical geological formations. Could the explosion have generated transient electromagnetic pulses, or do these anomalies indicate a previously unrecognized cosmic phenomenon? The data is tantalizing but inconclusive, leaving scientists to reconcile observed physical effects with theoretical models. These magnetic quirks are reminders that the event was not just a simple release of energy. It was a multifaceted phenomenon with subtle, far-reaching consequences. Another lingering mystery lies in the precise nature of the airburst itself. Simulations and models provide estimates of altitude, energy, and trajectory, yet small discrepancies remain between predicted and observed effects. Why did the blast flatten trees in such a perfectly radial pattern? Why did thermal and shockwave effects vary across seemingly uniform terrain? Even minor anomalies in these patterns spark new research, suggesting that Tunguska may have involved complex interactions between the object, the atmosphere, and the Earth's magnetic and geological features, an interaction that current models only approximate. The ecological anomalies are also puzzling. While the forest recovered, certain areas displayed unusual growth patterns, mutations in tree rings, and abnormal soil composition. Could high-energy radiation, exotic particles, or unknown chemical interactions have influenced the regrowth of flora? Some ecologists speculate that these subtle anomalies may preserve traces of the event's unique energy release, offering clues to a process that science has yet to fully replicate or understand. These living imprints of Tunguska serve as both a testament to nature's resilience and a challenge to researchers striving to decode the event's complete legacy. Cultural and historical enigmas persist as well. The event inspired folklore, myths, and oral histories that describe phenomena seemingly beyond conventional explanation. While these accounts are often symbolic or interpretive, some researchers note consistencies that defy simple dismissal. Could these narratives preserve observations of physical effects that science has overlooked or cannot yet explain? The interplay between memory, culture, and anomalous experience underscores the multidimensional nature of Tunguska, revealing that its mysteries are as psychological and cultural as they are physical. Even modern scientific endeavors have not resolved all uncertainties. Each expedition, from satellite surveys to LiDAR scans, uncovers new anomalies, unexpected soil chemistry, irregular tree fall patterns, and microdebris with ambiguous origins. Every discovery raises new questions, suggesting that Tunguska is not a puzzle with a single solution, but a layered phenomenon with multiple interacting factors. The more we learn, the more complex the story becomes, deepening both fascination and uncertainty. These lingering mysteries fuel human imagination and curiosity. Tunguska has become a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that the universe contains forces beyond our comprehension, capable of transforming the familiar world in an instant. The anomalies challenge scientific humility, inviting reflection on what is possible, what is yet to be discovered, and what may remain forever beyond our understanding. They keep the story alive, bridging science, speculation, and storytelling in ways that few other events can. Ultimately, the unexplained aspects of Tunguska are central to its enduring power. They are the reason the event captivates not only scientists but also artists, writers, and dreamers. Each anomaly, be it missing debris, magnetic irregularities, or inexplicable eyewitness phenomena, adds depth, drama, and mystery. Tunguska remains both a historical incident and a living enigma, compelling us to ask profound questions about the cosmos, the fragility of life, and the limits of human knowledge. In the end, these mysteries do more than confound. They inspire. They drive research, storytelling, and philosophical reflection, reminding us that even in an age of satellites, drones, and supercomputers, some events retain an elemental, almost magical power. Tunguska endures not just as a blast in the Siberian forest, but as a beacon of wonder, a cosmic riddle that challenges us to look beyond the ordinary and confront the extraordinary forces shaping our world. The sheer force of the Tunguska explosion served as a stark, unforgettable warning to humanity. A single cosmic object, small by astronomical standards, had unleashed energy equivalent to hundreds of atomic bombs, obliterating 2,000 square kilometers of Siberian forest in an instant. The event demonstrated the catastrophic potential of near-Earth objects, and over time, it became a central reference point in the nascent field of planetary defense. Tunguska's legacy extends far beyond historical curiosity. It catalyzed the global recognition that Earth is vulnerable to forces from space, and that preparation is essential. In the decades following Tunguska, the idea of cosmic hazards slowly moved from speculation to serious scientific inquiry. Early studies focused on understanding the mechanics of airbursts, atmospheric entry, and energy dispersion. Researchers realized that Tunguska represented a type of threat that conventional geological knowledge could not fully anticipate, a mid-air explosion capable of widespread destruction without leaving a typical impact crater. This realization shifted the focus of asteroid studies, emphasizing not just large collisions, but also smaller, high-velocity objects capable of producing immense damage. The Cold War era accelerated interest in asteroid monitoring. As space exploration became technologically feasible, scientists and policymakers recognized the dual threats of natural and artificial hazards. Tunguska was cited repeatedly in discussions about planetary defense, emphasizing the need to track near-Earth objects, NEOs, with precision. Programs such as NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office, the European Space Agency's NEO segment, and global collaborations in observational astronomy emerged, aiming to detect, track, and, if necessary, mitigate threats before they could strike. The Tunguska precedent imbued these initiatives with urgency, reminding decision-makers that cosmic events were not abstract risks but tangible, potentially civilization-altering dangers. Modern asteroid monitoring relies heavily on advanced telescopes, satellite surveys, and computer simulations, all of which owe their philosophical origins, in part, to Tunguska. By modeling the trajectory, size, composition, and potential energy of near-Earth objects, scientists can estimate the likelihood and consequences of future impacts. Tunguska's airburst provided a real-world calibration point, a single event against which models of energy release, atmospheric interaction, and surface damage could be tested. Without Tunguska, our understanding of mid-air explosions and airburst phenomena would be far less precise, and the awareness of cosmic vulnerability might have emerged decades later. Beyond detection, Tunguska inspired thought experiments and technological concepts for planetary defense. Concepts such as kinetic impactors, gravity tractors, and deflection missions stem from the recognition that small but energetic objects could devastate Earth without warning. Each theoretical approach is informed by the lessons of Tunguska: how an object can fragment, dissipate energy in the atmosphere, and strike unpredictably. The explosion serves as both a cautionary tale and a blueprint for proactive measures, driving research that bridges astronomy, engineering, and planetary science. Tunguska also influenced international cooperation. As the potential threat of asteroid impacts became clear, nations realized that global collaboration was essential. Early warnings, observational data, and mitigation strategies must transcend borders. A celestial hazard does not respect national boundaries. Tunguska provided a historical case study, illustrating that even remote regions are vulnerable and that preparedness requires coordination, transparency, and shared resources. International workshops, space agencies, and scientific networks cite Tunguska as a pivotal example of why vigilance is necessary. Public awareness of Tunguska has reinforced the importance of planetary defense. Media coverage, documentaries, and educational programs highlight the event as a real-world warning, connecting audiences to the concept of cosmic risk. The dramatic narrative, an explosion that flattened forests silently and invisibly from afar, resonates emotionally, emphasizing vulnerability and responsibility. This public engagement has been instrumental in garnering support for funding, research, and policy initiatives aimed at protecting Earth from similar events in the future. Interestingly, Tunguska also sparked philosophical reflection on humanity's relationship with the cosmos. The explosion exemplifies the fragility of civilization, the unpredictability of celestial forces, and the limitations of human foresight. It underscores that, despite technological advancement, the universe operates on scales and energies that can render human ingenuity insufficient if unprepared. In this sense, Tunguska is both a scientific case study and a cautionary narrative, blending empirical observation with existential reflection. Contemporary simulations and monitoring programs continue to draw inspiration from Tunguska. By examining potential impact scenarios, modeling airburst effects, and studying energy distribution, scientists refine our understanding of how similar events could affect populated regions. Tunguska serves as a reference point, a historical calibration, and a reminder that vigilance is not optional. It is essential for survival. Each new near-Earth object discovery, each computational model, carries echoes of the Siberian explosion, linking past and present in a continuous narrative of cosmic awareness. Ultimately, Tunguska transformed from a mysterious historical event into a touchstone for human preparedness. Its legacy extends beyond science, influencing policy, international cooperation, education, and public consciousness. The explosion demonstrates the intersection of nature's power and human responsibility, highlighting that while we cannot control cosmic events, we can observe, anticipate, and respond. Tunguska's shadow looms large not only over the Siberian taiga, but over the collective imagination of humanity, guiding our efforts to safeguard the planet against the unpredictable and the extraordinary. Beyond its scientific significance and ecological impact, the Tunguska event occupies a singular place in human imagination. Its sudden, inexplicable explosion in a remote corner of Siberia provided fertile ground for storytellers, conspiracy theorists, and visionaries alike. Tunguska transcended its historical moment, becoming a symbol of the unknown, a narrative of cosmic mystery, and a canvas upon which humans projected both fear and wonder. Its influence can be traced across literature, cinema, speculative science, and even fringe theories, reflecting a deep-seated fascination with the collision of human life and incomprehensible cosmic forces. In science fiction, Tunguska serves as a powerful narrative device. Writers have imagined the explosion as the result of alien intervention, secret government experiments, or encounters with objects beyond human comprehension. In these stories, Tunguska is more than an explosion. It is a doorway to the unknown, a moment where ordinary life collides with forces that defy explanation. The dramatic scale of the event, combined with its geographic isolation and lack of definitive evidence, makes it ideal for speculative narratives. Characters in these tales confront both the physical and psychological impact of an event that is simultaneously real and unfathomable, blurring the line between history and imagination. Conspiracy theories also flourish around Tunguska, fueled by the event's anomalies and the scarcity of physical evidence. Some theorists suggest secret weapons tests, while others imagine experiments involving advanced or unknown technology. Theories of alien intervention remain particularly persistent, drawing on eyewitness reports of strange lights, fireballs, and atmosphere phenomena. While mainstream science largely dismisses these claims, their persistence highlights the human desire to find narrative meaning in the unexplained, to impose order on chaos, and to connect extraordinary events with familiar frameworks of intrigue and control. Cinema and television have seized upon Tunguska's dramatic potential. Documentaries blend historical evidence with atmospheric reconstructions, dramatizations, and first-person accounts, creating immersive experiences that convey both terror and wonder. Fictional portrayals explore the psychological tension of encountering forces beyond comprehension, often emphasizing human vulnerability and curiosity. These visual narratives reinforce the event's status as a cultural touchstone, dramatizing the interplay between cosmic power, environmental destruction, and human resilience. Tunguska, in film, becomes both spectacle and allegory, a reminder of the thin line between normalcy and chaos. Tunguska's presence in popular culture also speaks to a broader human fascination with cosmic unpredictability. It exemplifies the profound vulnerability of life on Earth, a planet spinning through a universe filled with objects capable of sudden, violent disruption. The event encourages reflection on the fragility of civilization, the limits of scientific understanding, and the ethical responsibilities inherent in knowledge. Stories, theories, and artistic representations of Tunguska amplify these themes, connecting audiences to both the factual event and its symbolic resonance. Interestingly, Tunguska has inspired a unique subgenre of mystery science storytelling, blending scientific curiosity with imaginative speculation. Authors, filmmakers, and podcasters often explore scenarios in which the explosion is the precursor to larger cosmic events or a warning of unseen forces in the universe. In these narratives, Tunguska is not just a historical occurrence, but a catalyst, prompting characters, and by extension, audiences, to confront existential questions, scientific limits, and the profound scale of the cosmos. The event becomes both literal and metaphorical, a lens through which humans grapple with uncertainty, mortality, and curiosity. Conspiracy theories and speculative interpretations, while often sensational, contribute to Tunguska's enduring cultural footprint. They amplify the emotional and psychological dimensions of the event, exploring themes of secrecy, discovery, and human vulnerability. UFO enthusiasts, secret society theorists, and alternative historians all find in Tunguska's story that resonates with their worldview. A sudden, dramatic event that defies explanation and challenges authority, inviting endless interpretation and debate. These cultural narratives, though controversial, ensure that Tunguska remains a living story, continuously reinvented and reinterpreted. The influence of Tunguska also extends to art and music, where creators evoke its drama, energy, and mystery. Paintings, digital art, and multimedia installations depict the explosion, the radial devastation, and the eerie Siberian landscape with a blend of realism and surrealism. Musicians compose works that convey the sudden violence of the blast, the eeriness of the regrowing forest, and the tension between destruction and renewal. Through these artistic mediums, Tunguska becomes more than a historical or scientific event. It becomes an emotional and aesthetic experience, a source of reflection on human vulnerability and the sublime power of the universe. Even in gaming and interactive media, Tunguska has left its mark. Designers use the event as a backdrop for exploration, survival, and mystery, allowing players to engage with the psychological and environmental dimensions of cosmic catastrophe. These interactive narratives emphasize human agency, curiosity, and resilience in the face of overwhelming forces, mirroring the emotional and intellectual engagement that real-life researchers experience when studying Tunguska. Ultimately, Tunguska's influence on modern imagination reflects its dual nature. It is simultaneously an empirical event and a symbolic phenomenon. Its unexplained aspects, dramatic scale, and cosmic origins make it a natural subject for storytelling, speculation, and artistic exploration. From science fiction to conspiracy theories, from film to music, Tunguska continues to challenge and inspire, inviting each generation to confront the unknown and to ponder the extraordinary forces that shape our world. In this way, Tunguska exists in multiple realms at once: historical, scientific, cultural, and imaginative. It is a catalyst for inquiry, a source of awe, and a mirror reflecting human curiosity, fear, and creativity. Its enduring presence in the cultural imagination demonstrates that some events transcend time and space, becoming symbols of the unknown and the unknowable, while inspiring reflection, exploration, and wonder. Tunguska, both real and imagined, remains a story of cosmic mystery, human resilience, and the unending pursuit of understanding. As the Siberian taiga continues to recover from the invisible hand of the Tunguska explosion, the event's emotional weight resonates far beyond the scientific data, cultural interpretations, and ecological studies. Tunguska forces humanity to confront vulnerability, wonder, and the profound unpredictability of the universe. In the silence of the regrowing forest, standing among flattened trees and scarred earth, one feels a deep connection to both history and the cosmos, a humbling, awe-inspiring recognition of forces far beyond human comprehension. The emotional impact begins with the realization of human fragility. The explosion, while remote, demonstrates that civilization exists in a delicate equilibrium, poised between safety and annihilation. A single object from the depths of space, unseen and unstoppable, could have altered human history had it struck a populated region. This awareness evokes both fear and reverence, reminding humanity that the universe operates on scales and with energies that dwarf human ingenuity. Tunguska becomes a mirror, reflecting the smallness of our existence against the vast backdrop of cosmic forces. At the same time, the event inspires awe. The sheer scale of the explosion, the radial devastation, and the mysterious disappearance of the object are reminders of the sublime power of nature and the cosmos. Witnessing the landscape today, the reborn forest interwoven with remnants of past destruction, elicits a mixture of wonder and melancholy. Life endures, adapts, and flourishes, yet the memory of the cataclysm lingers, a silent testament to both mortality and resilience. Tunguska teaches that awe is inseparable from humility, and that wonder often arises where destruction and renewal intersect. Reflection on Tunguska also evokes curiosity and philosophical questioning. Scientists, explorers, and storytellers alike are compelled to ask, what was this object? Why did it explode in the atmosphere? How many other hidden cosmic threats await humanity? These questions are not purely intellectual. They're emotional, stirring a mixture of fascination, fear, and the desire for understanding. Tunguska becomes a touchstone for human inquiry, reminding us that the pursuit of knowledge is both necessary and profoundly moving. The human stories surrounding Tunguska add another emotional layer. Eyewitness accounts, preserved through memory and oral history, convey terror, confusion, and awe experienced by those living through the explosion. Local populations described blinding light, deafening sounds, and a sky filled with fire. Animals fled, forests trembled, and the land itself seemed to breathe in shock. These narratives humanize the cosmic event, grounding it in lived experience and emotional reality. They serve as a bridge between abstract scientific phenomena and the visceral human encounter with forces beyond comprehension. The mystery of Tunguska amplifies its emotional resonance. Unexplained anomalies, the missing fragments, magnetic irregularities, and atmospheric oddities create a sense of tension and wonder. Each unanswered question invites reflection, curiosity, and speculation. The unknown transforms Tunguska from a historical footnote into a living enigma, compelling humanity to grapple not only with facts, but also with the emotional weight of uncertainty. It is in this tension between knowledge and mystery that the event achieves its most profound impact. The ecological recovery of the forest provides a quiet, poignant counterpoint to destruction. Walking among young trees growing in radial patterns, feeling the resilience of life reclaiming scorched soil, one senses hope and continuity. Nature's ability to endure despite overwhelming forces mirrors human perseverance in the face of adversity. This recovery evokes emotions of respect, gratitude, and even inspiration, underscoring the intertwined narratives of destruction, resilience, and the passage of time. Tunguska, in this way, becomes both cautionary and uplifting, a testament to the cycles of loss and renewal that define life on Earth. Tunguska also encourages reflection on humanity's responsibility toward the planet and cosmos. The event reminds us that while we cannot prevent every cosmic threat, awareness, preparedness, and scientific inquiry can mitigate risks. Emotional engagement with Tunguska, fear, awe, curiosity, and hope reinforces the importance of vigilance, collaboration, and humility. In essence, the event serves as both a warning and a lesson, challenging humans to balance wonder with responsibility, imagination with rational action. Perhaps most poignantly, Tunguska evokes a sense of connection across time and space. The explosion links 1908 to the present day, Siberia to the rest of the world, and humanity to the cosmos. It reminds us that our existence is part of a larger, unpredictable universe, one that can surprise, challenge, and inspire simultaneously. Standing in the shadow of its legacy, whether physically in the forest or through contemplation of its historical and cultural impact, one feels both vulnerability and empowerment. The vulnerability of smallness and the empowerment of curiosity, resilience, and reflection. Ultimately, the emotional climax of Tunguska is a blend of awe, fear, and introspection. It is the recognition that the universe contains forces beyond human control, that life is fragile yet resilient, and that understanding requires both intellect and emotional engagement. Tunguska's story transcends science, history, and culture. It becomes a meditation on existence itself, a narrative that challenges, teaches, and inspires. It invites viewers and readers alike to pause, reflect, and confront their own place within the vast, mysterious, and unpredictable cosmos. In this emotional culmination, Tunguska leaves a lasting impression. The explosion is not only a scientific event, but a profound human experience. It compels us to recognize vulnerability, celebrate resilience, embrace curiosity, and contemplate the infinite possibilities of the universe. The story ends not with closure, but with reflection, an invitation to ask, to wonder, and to remain vigilant in the face of forces that are both terrifying and awe-inspiring. As we reach the conclusion of the Tunguska story, the explosion transforms from a historical event into a profound meditation on humanity, the cosmos, and the mysteries that surround us. More than a century later, Tunguska remains both a scientific case study and a symbol of the unpredictable forces that shape our world. Its legacy is not merely in the data, the forest regrowth, or the fragments found in soil. It lies in the questions it provokes, the imagination it sparks, and the emotional resonance it continues to hold. The resolution begins with a synthesis of science and mystery. Modern research, from satellite imagery to computer simulations, has clarified much about the explosion, likely caused by a stony meteoroid entering Earth's atmosphere, detonating at a high altitude, releasing energy equivalent to hundreds of megatons of TNT. The radial devastation, the thermal effects, and the shockwave are now better understood than in Kulik's time. Yet even with sophisticated models, some anomalies persist. The missing fragments, magnetic irregularities, and strange eyewitness phenomena. Tunguska teaches us that science can illuminate but not always fully explain, and that the unknown remains an essential part of discovery. Cultural and emotional threads converge in this final reflection. Tunguska has inspired literature, film, art, and folklore, leaving a lasting imprint on human imagination. It represents fear, awe, curiosity, and hope, the human response to forces far beyond control. In examining the explosion's impact on ecosystems, societies, and science, we see that Tunguska is more than a remote historical footnote. It is a narrative about human resilience, our capacity to adapt, and our drive to seek understanding in a vast, unpredictable universe. The ecological recovery of the Tunguska region offers a poetic resolution. The forest, once flattened and scarred, now thrives, a living testament to nature's resilience. Pioneer species, saplings, and regrowing wildlife illustrate that life persists even after immense destruction. This recovery mirrors human adaptability in the face of crises, emphasizing that while cosmic forces can challenge existence, they also illuminate the capacity for renewal, growth, and hope. In the interplay between devastation and regeneration, Tunguska's story achieves a profound emotional balance, awe-tinged with optimism, mystery balanced by observable patterns of resilience. Tunguska's influence on modern science and planetary defense underscores the event's enduring relevance. The explosion catalyzed awareness of near-Earth objects, inspired global monitoring systems, and informed strategies for risk assessment and mitigation. Humanity's response to the possibility of cosmic hazards, driven by a century-old explosion in a remote Siberian forest, demonstrates our capacity for foresight and ingenuity. The narrative comes full circle. An event that could have been purely catastrophic becomes a guidepost for preparedness, knowledge, and reflection on the fragility and resilience of human civilization. Yet the emotional resolution is not solely about preparation or scientific achievement. It is also about contemplation. Tunguska invites viewers to confront profound questions. How vulnerable are we? How small are we in the grand cosmic scale? What mysteries still linger beyond our comprehension? By leaving certain questions unanswered, Tunguska retains its power, reminding humanity that the universe is vast, unpredictable, and often beyond our control. In this uncertainty lies both fear and fascination, the tension that fuels imagination, inquiry, and emotional engagement. The final reflection acknowledges the interplay of time, memory, and perspective. Over a century has passed since the fateful day in 1908, yet the explosion's effects are still visible in the landscape, culture, and collective imagination. Tunguska teaches us to look beyond immediate evidence, to recognize patterns and lessons in both destruction and recovery. It urges us to consider our place in the universe, to respect forces we cannot dominate, and to cherish the fragility and resilience that define life on Earth. In literature, film, and art, Tunguska remains a metaphor for the unknown, the sudden, and the transformative. Its story transcends geography, era, and discipline, connecting science and mythology, fact and imagination. The event compels humanity to balance curiosity with caution, observation with reflection, and knowledge with wonder. In the scarred forests, the fragmented soil, and the simulations of supercomputers, we see a story that is simultaneously empirical and poetic, a story that challenges us to look outward at the cosmos and inward at our own place within it. The final resolution emphasizes continuity and reflection. Tunguska is not merely a moment frozen in time. It is an ongoing narrative. The forest continues to grow, ecosystems continue to evolve, and human inquiry continues to probe the remaining mysteries. Each generation revisits the story, interpreting it anew, drawing lessons from both scientific progress and imaginative speculation. Tunguska becomes a bridge between past, present, and future, a symbol of continuity amid change, and a reminder that understanding is a journey, not a destination. Ultimately, the story of Tunguska leaves viewers with a subtle, enduring question. What if the secrets of this remote explosion can change how we see the universe, our place in it, and our relationship to forces beyond control? Its mystery invites reflection, humility, and wonder, an emotional and intellectual legacy that continues to resonate. Tunguska is at once a historical event, a cosmic phenomenon, a cultural touchstone, and an enduring reminder that in the vastness of the universe, humanity is both vulnerable and extraordinary, capable of resilience, imagination, and profound reflection. In closing, Tunguska stands as a monument to mystery, a lesson in resilience, and a testament to the human spirit. It is a story of fire and forest, science and speculation, fear and awe. Its echoes ripple through time, across disciplines, and within the hearts of those who contemplate it. Tunguska does not simply end. It lingers, inspiring thought, wonder, and a deep recognition of the extraordinary forces that shape our world and our place within it.